Hello. Living dog, that didn't take long at all. Welcome, welcome. Audio check, make sure everything sounds good. You can hear me all right? You can hear the game? Everything seeming good? Like the stream quality is working all right. Mr. Light is here, awesome. Had Discord open already, so you got the ping immediately. Nice. Mr. Light is here too, awesome. Huh. Well, I don't remember if you were here last time, Living Dog, but I know Mr. Light was here at least for a little bit. So this is... I thought you collapsed asleep on your keyboard. Oh, if only, if only. Hexu is here. Hexu. Do I know who that is? I'm not sure I recognize that username, though I might just be blanking. So, for those of you who haven't been to one of these before, I don't blame you, this is literally the second one. This is what I've decided to lovingly call my Philosophilocke. The original idea was just to kind of screw around, and if I don't feel up for recording a full live analysis, I'll just freaking play Pokemon and pretend like I'm actually making valuable content. But the original idea was basically I'm just gonna play through Pokemon, and eventually I decided I would also play a Nuzlocke, just because why not? If you don't know, that is basically just special rules of Pokemon that make it harder. Pokemon die when they're killed, 1 counter per route, things like that. So that was kind of the plan, and then if I just as I ran into random things that I wanted to talk about, if a character says a random piece of dialogue hey, shorts are really cool, I'll just go on a rant about shorts. And you can see the VOD for my first video on there, on YouTube. I decided to move it over to Twitch though, just to see how that one goes, if that one goes any better. I really just how I like the streaming service, I suppose. Given that Twitch is dedicated for streaming, I have a feeling I'll like it more, but I suppose we'll just have to see. But yeah, I'm basically just... This is basically just downtime stream. Have an excuse for me just to start playing some games and also get comfortable commentating over games, because I do plan on at some point phasing them into my channel. But as it is now, obviously this is far from actual recorded content. This is basically just me playing a Nuzlocke, and if I feel like rambling, I will. If you haven't seen my VOD or the separate video clip I did from the VOD, last time I had some talks, mainly Max Godard was the main participant of the last one, and we had some interesting talks. We ended up talking about millionaires, we talked about what makes a good mom. That was quite an enjoyable and honestly a surprisingly wholesome discussion about moms. And we also talked about it was millionaires, moms, and manifestation. So manifesting the kind of person you want to be, or the kind of person you don't want to be in that case. And yeah, I made a separate VOD about that, but this is basically what we're doing. And it's going to be something of a similar caliber to that. Not nearly as in-depth with discussions as my normal streams. But if you just want to hear me talk, watch me play through this game, it's obviously not my first time, but yeah, it's just gonna be a chill stream basically, and with the occasional random philosophical tirade. The last stream I was on was your first YouTube stream, so it's normal you don't remember me. Okay, so you are from the last Philosophilocke. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're back, Hexu. Hope to see you around more often. Get familiar with that name. Though I am bad with names, so I hope you'll be patient with me in that regard. So, in the first episode, in the first upload of the first stream, if you would, I started my journey. I got my starter, which is a Piplup. I don't know how much y'all know about well, Hexu obviously knows a little bit about Pokemon, and Mr. Light does too, but I got my Piplup, my water starter. I named it Sumknown to eventually jump scare him when he does show up on one of these streams. And then I also got Theo, who I haven't seen in a while in my videos. I hope he's doing all right. And the other person who was quite present in the last stream. Oh my god, Sumknown is here. Hello. Here's your Piplup, by the way. I don't know if you watched the VOD from last time, but Max had the idea to name it after you so that when you actually show up, you'll see it here. So, yeah. Who's jump scaring who now? Yeah, I guess I got jump scared by you, Sumknown, so touche. So here's you, Sumknown. In case you didn't hear the first part, I am doing a Nuzlocke, so there is a very real chance that you will die in this playthrough. And if you do die, I am going to have to ban you from my server. No hard feelings, them's just the rule. I don't make the rules, And I just... Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Are we back? Are we back? Can you guys see me again? Error 5,000 on my end. I did not know that there were that many errors. My goodness. It's back now. Yeah, we back. Okay, cool. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. I hit like X to like move forward in the game, but I was actually clicked on my OBS over here. And apparently the X just counted as like an enter. So I guess the last thing I pressed on OBS was my streaming, so it automatically stopped streaming. So, whoopsies. It looks like we're back, though. Awesome. Cool, and we've got 7 whole people here. Oh my god, you guys really need to do more with your time. Spending a freaking Monday afternoon here. Well, some of you haven't been here last time, so maybe you just don't know better. We'll see how many of you last to the end of this. But yeah, so this is a Nuzlocke. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's basically simple rules. 1, always nickname all of your Pokemon. That's kind of an unofficial rule, but I take it the opposite degree. Even though I'm not playing a Nuzlocke, I always nickname my Pokemon so I can get attached to them. But it's really important in a Nuzlocke to nickname your Pokemon because in Nuzlockes, when your Pokemon faint, they die. Just like the stream just did, as a living dog pointed out, yeah. So yeah, if they faint, they die. I have to release them, and I have to, if the person is on the IPPC, I do have to kick them. That's a joke, of course. I don't plan on kicking Sumknown anytime soon, though I'm not opposed to it. That depends on you, Sumknown. Or should I say, Ossian. So yeah, definitely hope your Piplup doesn't die. Theo, I haven't seen him around, so I don't even think he's on the server. And JT, we'll see if Drew Tepin shows up here, or if he's lurking here. Who knows? Sumknown is too goated to die, so we're fine. I mean, Sumknown is a Piplup, so I honestly would agree with you, Mr. Light. You will survive. Or he will survive. What did I come back to? What is this about kicking me? Oh, yeah, in case you missed it, the real jump scare isn't the fact that you are a Piplup, it's the fact that if your Pokemon dies, then you get kicked from the IPPC. So, no pressure. No pressure. So, we are in Jubilife, the first town, and we're just gonna go through Pokemon. We're gonna frickin' see if there's any random things I feel like talking about, and if not, I'm just gonna play Pokemon. The whole point of this is kind of just to be a low-stress thing where I can hang out and also see how Maximus is doing. Hey, Miss G, did you come to study too? I went ahead and memorized everything that was up on the blackboard. After all, it's the trainer's job to avoid having their precious Pokemon hurt in battle, right? So, Miss G, what brings you? Huh? You've got something for me? Miss G delivered the parcel. So what is this? It's a parcel, dumbass. Why are there 2 in here? Town map! That is going to be so useless because I know this region better than the palm of my own hand, frankly. Alright, See you later, greatest trainer of all time. And I believe these two provide me with a prime opportunity to have some Pokemon die, so I think I'm going to be using Sundown here. What were the other two? You talking about the other two Pokemon? This one is Theo, my little Bidoof, and here is JT, Jirutepin, who's my little Shinx. I don't think anyone's died yet. I'm pretty sure I've only had 3 encounters. So, fingers crossed that nothing else will die. Yes, but now I have an answer. Okay, yeah, you just wanted to see the Pokemon here. So, on the topic of dying, let's see how Summonon does in battle. I need to try the things I learned before I forget them. Oh, that is so relatable. School kid Christine. Oh my god, did I really just say I relate to a freaking 2-month-old? Also an Abra. I'm pretty sure this one has hidden power, but if it only has teleport, that's gonna be hilarious. Okay, it does have hidden power. I don't actually know what type it is, so fingers crossed it's not like electric. Okay, it's probably just like normal. No worries, no worries. We got less defense actually. Mr. Life, for the record, I haven't watched the full VOD, but I did listen to your best of. Very interesting, by the way, so I hope I haven't missed some deep lore. The best of, I assume you mean the, like, 10-minute video I did? The highlights there? You probably haven't missed too much. I mean, there was a lot of technical difficulties that we just had to deal with while we were in there. Max helped me, or was very patient as I sorted through getting this overlay set up. And there's obviously a lot of room to grow. Like I can't even so much as see like things like subscribers and stuff. So I've got a lot of work to do to develop this thing, but it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. That's another thing that's nice about this. Actually, hold on. I was about to say yes. About to go on autopilot. Oh, also one of my Pokemon almost died last time because I included that actually in the video if you saw it. Because I was distracted, so this is also kind of like a special challenge run for me, and I don't have like a thing to heal, so I'm just gonna go into it. I don't care. I'm a very reckless Pokemon player, you will see. You will come to learn this. So yeah, this is also going to be a special challenge run for me, simply because despite me being an ADHD machine and having it for pretty much my entire life, I am really bad at multitasking. ADHD does not mean you are good at multitasking, it simply means that your brain tries to do it anyways. So there is a very good chance, in fact I can all but guarantee you, that the majority of Pokemon who die during this run, because there will be Pokemon who die in this run, hopefully the first one's not going to be Summonon, is going to be because I'm distracted, like talking or something. Because I have a very bad habit of forgetting I'm in a Nuzlocke and just kind of going on autopilot. So fingers crossed that won't be what's happening here. But, okay, the music's really nice, but this is... Oh my god. Abra. Oh my god, that is really powerful. I forget that Abra has an insane special attack stat. It just can't, like, ever use it. So it's easy to forget. Alright, we have successfully beat the crap out of these school kids. And none of our pets died doing it. Very well. That's right. Don't you give me, like... That's not return. It's probably something lame, right? There's no way they'd give you something so strong. Let's see, actually. This is hidden power. Oh, duh, they were just using hidden power. I'm going to take a rain check on that, actually. And I don't think anyone here gives you the quick claw, right? No, that's the thing in a lot of the games, but I think they stopped in this one, yeah. Shame. What a shame. What a pity. Heal me up, Scotty. Alright, we got some clowns to talk to. Starting with this one. Oh, you call yourself a Pokemon trainer, and yet you have no Poketech. Poketch. That is Pokemon Watch, or Poketch for short. Oh my, you are a rare case indeed. You see, I invented and now manufacture Poketches. Not only that, I'm now conducting the Poketch promotional campaign. All you have to do is find 3 clowns in Jubilife City. Well, I've found one already. If you can find them, I will gift you with a Poketch. That sounds like a horrible business strategy, but you know what? We're gonna go with it. Yes, they do gain experience. I know, shocker. Whee! I haven't decided how much I'm gonna use the fast forward. Probably just enough to increase my hasty tendencies and get some Pokemon killed. It is a shame though, because this game really does have incredible OST, and fast forwarding kind of ruins that a little bit, but you know, we make do with what we got. It's also a bit of an awkward setup for me, just because I'm using my mic is on the drawer of this desk, but the chair has big ol' armrest, so it's kind of stuck here. So I have to stretch out my arms all the way out here in order to play this. So I'll be moving out in a week or so into my own place, or a place that me and my brother are going to be moving into. And then I'll have a different setup. So we'll see how that goes, actually. And so you probably won't be seeing this setup too much longer, so don't get too comfortable with it. Oh, I don't have any apps. That's lame. That's lame. You have a calculator, which is awesome. Let's do this, just so I can keep tabs on my Pokemon's health. Because Lord knows I need it. And of course, since I'm paranoid, I'm still gonna check anyways. Alrighty then, let's see. We already talked to the clowns. I don't think I want to get... I don't know if I can. Well, I guess I got the old rod right here, yeah. No, I don't need tips. I'll just take a moment to bring Archipelago randomizers to light. They're quite cool. Ooh, I don't know about Archipelago randomizers. I have played with some randomizers before, and I'll probably be doing that in the future, maybe once I finish this one. I just want to do a basic vanilla run, just to... just as kind of a test run, if you would. But randomizers do sound like a really fun way just to add some craziness to... yes, President. Yep. You'll be ready when you get a gym badge, okay. Randomizers do sound like a great way just to add some utter insanity into these chill streams. Cross-game randomizer, so it has a large amount of games you can play. Oh, interesting. And you can play them with other people. Oh, interesting. Yep, the Pocket Monsters watched in full name. Whee! What a seer deal. People everywhere make Poketch apps. You'll be able to get new apps from surprising sources. Okay. Do you have a Poketch? There's a girl model and a boys model. Basically Deathlink, so when others die, you die too. Oh my goodness. That is... that sounds like a lot of fun playing as a Deathlink. What are we talking about? Tabbed out of stream, can't see the chat from when I'm tabbed out. Apparently an Archipelago randomizer that some known is going to bring up. Ooh, here's an encounter. Route 204. Let's see what we got. Paralyze heal. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Share me some more details with that in the Discord, some known. I'd love to look into that. My encounter is not a Bidoof because I am playing with Bidoof's Claws, so I won't find any Pokemon that I already have. Let's see. I will kill it for experience, though. Mr. Light is fairly unfamiliar with Pokemon games, so I'll be impressed by whatever performance you'll be showing, even with ADHD. Waiting you die. Yeah. So I do have, solid knowledge of Pokemon. I've played it, pretty much all throughout my life, so you'll see I have approximate knowledge of many things when it comes to Pokemon. And Starly's my encounter. Awesome. Yes, unknown double digits. Gotta love it. I don't know how weak the Starly is. Okay, cool. And it is a female Starly, so I gotta start thinking of names. In case you couldn't tell, as you probably could, the naming scheme is, of course, people who are going to be on these streams, but also just in the IPPC. The Starling Pokemon. His cries are very strident, huh? A very loud Pokemon that is a bird. A chick, even. What do you want from me? I'm a simple man. It's a very loud bird. If that's not a listed chick, what is? What is? Shout out to listed chicks if you're here. And if you're not, I don't know what you're doing, but come waste your time with us. You know you want to. So I've got a feeling he's not here. He's not much of a lurker. If he's around, he likes to make his presence known. So I've got a feeling he's actually not around. Actually, let me adjust this real quick. Shift it a little bit closer and shift myself a little closer. This desk is just big enough that I can't move the armrests. Then I'll slide this over a little bit. There we go, that should be good. Make sure of not letting it die. Yeah. I feel especially pressured to let this one live because I mean, now that Listed Chicks is part of the team. I mean, Listed Chicks is pretty capable. I've got a feeling that very careful. I don't know about that. Strongly defiant. I do know about that. And likes bitter food. Yeah, that all tracks with what I know. I don't know about you guys, but I'd say that was the right name. How many... Keep pressing the save button. I'm also trying to get used to these controls. I only have 2 potions. I should probably buy more. Especially with my, let's call it a gameplay style. Oh, also Pokeballs. I'm gonna get a Premier Ball, because might as well. And let's grab... I have, like, no money. Oh, my goodness. Okay, that's not gonna work. Oh, Mr. Light is also sleep-deprived. Excellent. Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that you do not have enough sleep. I guess this is the... Oh, there's the Quick Law. I guess it's just the sleep-deprived stream. Well, it's okay. We can both fail to find our words together. Misery loves company, right? So I hope you're not too miserable here. Did you buy some heal balls on the Mar? Oh, they have heal balls? Don't know if I'd be able to afford that, though, so I'm gonna pass. I like making my Pokemon use their attacks. Sometimes when they get stronger, they learn new Wait. I like making my Pokemon use their attacks. Am I stupid? Am I stupid? What does this mean? What do you mean I like making your Pokemon use your attack? What other option is there? Sir? I'm thinking too hard about this. I'm just gonna leave that be. You know what? I like making my Pokemon use attacks too. So I really shouldn't be judging, I guess. What's your... Wait, isn't there... Oh. I just remember that there's a rival battle coming up, and I really need to move the save button somewhere else. There is a rival battle coming up. I just remembered that I'm using a water type, which means I've set my rival up to get absolutely bodied by any flying types I have, so I'm going to level up this flying type Pokemon that I have. And we're just gonna hopefully not let Lista Chicks die here because, oh my god. Yeah, this is... Okay, let's get Theo in here. Yeah. Fast forward is a very dangerous tool. It's very useful, especially when you need to grind up a little bit, but it's also incredibly dangerous. I'm having a great time thanks to you all. Oh, Mr. Light, that's sweet. I'm having a great time thanks to you all, too. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can actually level these guys up without having them die miserably and very, very unceremoniously. Because if there's one thing I'm known for, it's losing most of my Pokemon, yes, through distraction, but particularly through grinding while I'm trying to level them up. I have a really bad habit of doing that, but not when the opponent doesn't know how to attack me. Thank you for that very important, meaningful crit. Whatever. Maybe I should just switch train, but I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna Pokey Scum. What are the video game licenses you've played most? If you're talking about like franchises and like series of games, honestly, probably Pokemon. I've played Pokemon pretty much throughout my life. Lately, I haven't really played a whole lot of games. By lately, I mean the last like several years. Ooh, quick attack. I want that. I want that. I want that. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Tackle is absolute garbage in this game, so I will take this upgrade. Absolutely. But I mean, it's too bad I played all these incredible games before starting my channel, because games like Omori, which is like one of my favorite games of all time, would have made such a great series to do on my channel, especially with a channel as like analysis focus as this one. Yeah, Omori's incredible. But, I mean, yeah, I don't have a very interesting video game library. It's basically like Pokemon and Minecraft, and the occasional indie game that I just happen across, or not happen across, but I hear in the zeitgeist. Things like really popular, like DDLC. Shoot, what else is there? Honestly, most of the games I know are games I've like watched other people play, like YouTubers and stuff. So I would not really consider myself a gamer. I have not been a gamer in a very long time. Which is also one of the reasons why I'm like doing this stream before I actually start doing serious things on my channel with video games, because I kind of need to stretch these muscles again and get back into the swing of things, as it were. Okay, Listachix is level 7. That should be plenty. I'm not going to worry about Theo because Theo's Theo. Yes, I remember knowing most games you've mentioned on the Discord from YouTube as well. Yeah. Most of them as well. Actually, I'm going to say that in a second, because right now, we've got a date with Maximus. Hey, Miss G, tell me you got a little tougher. Me? Do you even need to ask? Of course I got tougher. Come on, let's battle it out. Of course, this game is with its incredible OST. How about you guys? You got some good games in your repertoire you've played recently? Anything you might want to potentially even see on the channel? Because I'm definitely open to, I mean, pretty much anything, as long as I haven't really played it. I'm also, like, I guess technically open to things I've played before, if you'd be interested in just like seeing my commentary over it, but I don't know. It would generally be more story-focused games and not something like Slay the Spire per se, because obviously my channel and the Pokemon's low, this could be a bit tight. Oh, they're level 7 as well. I think there we go again. I'm just not paying attention when I should. I'm just gonna blame it on the fact that I'm like incredible. I'm just tired. That's my excuse. Wow, that was a lot of experience. That was a fat Starly. Sometimes playing Slay the Spire right now. Yeah, my brother plays it a lot, but I don't play it nearly as much. I'm a little scared because that is a really high level Turtwig. That's an archipelago game, no less. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm actually not too fond of just video games for like the sake of gameplay. I've never been a big gameplay guy. I'm definitely always more story focused. I find that a lot more interesting and more engaging for me. I mean, obviously, all of you guys know me from my YouTube channel, so I do like anime analyses, so I'm more interested in like the actual content. This Turtwig is going to be a serious problem. Okay, Neon Zombies made it in. You named the Pokemon Listachix. I mean, it's a loud, defiant avian creature. What else would I name it, Neon Zombies? And what else would I name it but Listachix? Ooh, Nier Automata, Mr. Light. Yes, that would be a great game. I would be really interested in playing that. I know basically nothing about it. Games like that, I guess potentially like something like Detroit Become Human is like an older one. One game that I started playing a while ago. Okay, this Turtwig is just being an absolute jerk. Can I please get a crit? Never mind, it just doesn't matter. Okay, very cool. But one game that I started playing like many years ago that I would love to come back to, depending on whether you guys are interested in that or not on my channel, is Octopath Travelers. I played a little bit of that. God, it was a long time ago, around when the first one came out. But I stopped playing after like a legendary meme was born, an inside joke between me and one of my friends. That'll take a whole different, that's a whole nother story though, but like, I don't know if you guys have played Octopath Travelers, but that could be a really interesting game to potentially put on my channel. Just those kind of like JRPGs that have potentially things to talk about. I don't know like how reflective it is or if it's like actually that good, but I mean, I know people really like the game, so something like that, like Nier Automata, I would not be opposed to playing games like that at all. Just things I can play, but also like have plenty to talk about, right? Because I think we can all agree, even though we're here for some reason spending our Monday afternoons watching me play Pokemon, the biggest value of my channel is what I have to say about things and just how I approach things from an analytical lens, less than my actual just playing random games. So obviously any I guess live analysis for video games that I end up doing would be similar to the ones I do with anime. So yeah, I'm very open to suggestions. I think pretty much everyone who's watching this is on my Discord. If you're not, go ahead and check it out. It should be linked in my profile, but I mean, it's the IPPC, it's a lot of fun. And there is a thread for video games. If you want to go ahead and recommend something, then I'm all ears. Because I don't know when I would do it. I think it would definitely be after I started like Vinland Saga, and probably into Fruian Season 2 at the very earliest, because I don't want to start balancing too many things, like doing my, obviously my live analysis series, I'm still trying to get back into those things, so I feel like adding, like, video games on top of that would kind of be a recipe for disaster, just trying to get my channel fall apart by doing too many things at once. But it's definitely something I want to look at, like, potentially sooner rather than later, and something I want to start thinking about now, because it could be a lot of fun. I think the natural engagement of a video game as opposed to an anime would already make the channel, make the series a lot interesting in a very different sense, right? Since you get to see a lot more of like my personality and my decision making and how terrible I am at solving puzzles through things like that, and just how terrible of a video game player I am, there's a lot of interesting things that come out of doing a video game live analysis series as opposed to one per anime. Oh god, Supersonic. Yeah, I'm not messing with that. I am not messing with that at all. Mr. Light, your brother has Octopath Travelers. Okay, interesting. You've never played it. We'll have to see what people think about that. That one was kind of on my mind just because it's one of the few games that like I've started playing but haven't finished and that I've like seen. But I know there was one game that I forget who it was, but in that channel about games that someone recommended. I totally forgot what that game was called though, but it is in there and seems like a lot of people were interested in it. So Living Dog, you have to play the original Call of Duty World War II. Is that so? I don't know how, like... oh, did I even get an encounter here? I know I've just been, like, running through, but I think I've only been doing, dupes. So I guess I should see if I can get my encounter here. See if I can get a new Pokemon and just train up, I guess, while I'm doing it. I mean, I assume that's a joke. For all I know, there could be some incredible things to talk about in Call of Duty World War II. I've never been a COD person, like, my entire life. I've never been a COD person. So I don't think I'd be playing Call of Duty on this channel anytime soon, whether that's a joke or not. But, I mean, if there is a Call of Duty that, like, genuinely has great things to talk about, I would be opposed to it. But, I mean, it is a shoot 'em up, so I kind of doubt it. I kind of doubt it. Let's see, level 7. Bidoof's doing fine. Theo's doing fine. Some AAA games are also very interesting narratively, but the problem is the time you need to invest in it. Yeah. And, like, there's a whole lot of, like, gameplay with a lot of the games. That obviously, they're games. But there's a lot of, like, parts where there probably wouldn't be a whole lot to talk about. You're just kind of, like, playing the game, right? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And if there's, like, nothing interesting going on for me, I could always, like, you know, obviously edit it out because it wouldn't be, like, on stream. Though I guess I could also do those on stream. There wouldn't be anything necessarily stopping me. But... Ooh, Abra! Okay, this might be my encounter. If it gets away, that's just too dang bad. It obviously only knows teleport, so we'll see if I get an encounter here at all. Fingers crossed. I've got a feeling I won't, though, because normal balls do not have a good chance. Yeah, bye-bye. No encounter here. Great. Let's see, the games people talked about in the Discord were mouthwashing. Yeah, that's right. That's right, you mentioned that, like, you didn't mind if I'd already played it, right? You'd still want to see it on there anyways. Outer Wilds by Listo and Fire Emblem, yeah. Okay. So those are all different, those are all pretty good options. Living Dog, it's a joke is the original from, like, 2002, though some Call of Duty campaigns, story mode basically, are very good. Though I don't think it'd fit in the channel, yeah. I had a feeling. Also, oh my god, I've just been attacking this Kricketot as been biting its energy. Oh no. I don't think it's taken too much damage. It might not kill my guys. Also, I'm realizing I have a Mr. Light in my chat and I wasn't able to name my Shinxit. That is tragic. I hope I find another electric type I can name Mr. Light. This guy's about to release his Bide energy and it's gonna do twice the damage I did to him. The first thought is that I use Sumknown because Sumknown has the most health. But I'd rather not have Sumknown die despite the jokes I was making at the start of the stream. I think Sumknown has both the most health and the most defense. I don't know if it'd be enough to survive Bide though. It is a physical attack, right? I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Bide takes several turns to activate, but it deals twice the amount of damage, I believe, that you were dealt during those turns you were biding your time. So I was kind of zoned out just talking about random stuff, and it stored a bunch of it. Well, not a bunch, like almost half its health and energy, and it's about to release that on whoever I send out next. Thankfully, one of my tackles missed, so it's not going to insta-kill some of me. If it's physical, it should be fine, right? Hopefully. Though I guess it'd actually be better if it was special. It looks like, because Piplup is slightly better special defense. I think I should be okay. I really hope we don't say goodbye to our penguin here, but I don't think Bide will kill me as it is. Okay, no, we're good. Kricketot sucks. We're good. Thank goodness. Okay. I am a god. Yeah, Sumknown, you tanked that like an absolute monster. Mad respect for that. Okay, get out of here, Kricketot. I don't care about your bite anymore. My body is steel. Not yet, but it's about to be. As I'm sure you probably know. For those of you who don't know, Piplup does turn into a water steel type. And Empoleon is one of the coolest Pokemon ever. So, I'm excited for that. Let's see, there were some other things. Like the last two, God of War, The Witcher 3 would go great with Vinland Saga. Oh, right, God of War could be interesting. I don't know much about like the Witcher games though, so I can't comment too much on that. But God of War does sound really interesting. I've seen like clips of it. Obviously, I know about like some of the Kratos memes and things like that, but I don't really know too much about them, so that could be interesting. Yeah, Living Dog bringing up Red Dead. I haven't played any of the Red Dead games. I don't know too much about them. I do know that they get pretty emotional and they're pretty intense though. So I would not be opposed to playing Red Dead at all, honestly. Bring it up in the Discord. We'll see what people think about it. That could be really interesting. There's definitely a lot of good games. I know, hottest take of the century. There's a lot of good games out there. So we'll see though. I definitely wouldn't be opposed to it. So there's no shortage of games I could play on my channel, right? So it's just a matter of you guys bringing it up and talking amongst yourselves and seeing who's interested in what. And we can start doing that. Oh my god. Hello. Last Caitlyn with... Oh no, not the Bidoof. I should be fine, right? My Bidoof is at least twice as powerful as theirs. Easy. Easy day. Theo, wherever you are not messing around now that you're leveling up. Not even a challenge. Badoo, I really want a Badoo. I'm kind of sad I got a Starly in that last route because I could have gotten a Badoo. And Badoo's one of my favorite grass types, like, period. So, very sad. But that's the nature of a Nuzlocke, is that you're finished so soon, no comment. But yeah, I love Badoo. It's very sad I didn't get him here. Are you a trainer? Yeah. Give me a battle so I can see if I'm ready for the Pokemon Gym Challenge. Oh my good sir. Oh, Machop, actually, you're more qualified than I thought. Since the next one is actually... it is going to be a rock type, so you're on the right track with Machop. I wouldn't mind one myself, though I don't... Oh, that wasn't fun. I think my Starly should... my Starly should do all right. My Piplup should do fine in the gym. I would like to have more than one Pokemon who can, like, do anything in the gym, though. And right now, it's basically just Starly. I keep saying that. It's just Piplup. Also, Wing Attack is absolutely freaking massive, so... let me go ahead and move that to the front real quick. Hold on. That is so huge. That is so huge. Oh, I love that. And then let's get some action for JT. Oh, pressing the wrong buttons because I'm still getting used to these. We'll get Mr. G in Red Dead before GTA 6 SMH my head. Well, you may get it before too long. If people really want to see it, then maybe I could even start with that one. Who knows? Quick Attack is such a Listo move. Sumknown, I both have no idea what you're talking about, yet agree with you completely. I cannot and will not elaborate. But yes, that is as Listo as it gets. Oh my god, I don't know why I started with a Gen 4 game of all games, back when Tackle has 35 power, 95 accuracy. I couldn't have gone one gen higher and given it that 100 accuracy and 50 power. It's such a bad move in this game. And like, oh, it's just a starter move, it's supposed to be bad. And yet Hound is literally just Tackle but better. I don't know why they made Tackle suck so bad in like the first several generations. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, no, GTA 6 is definitely never coming out. That's just factually correct. Keep hitting the save button because I need to move that over. See, I could heal, or I could just keep switching out until all of my team is too tired to go on, and then I'll just face Karma head on. I think we all know what I'm going with. Yes, yes, give me Rock Smash. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. And we got a Geodude! That is exciting. Yay. I mean, come on, who in the right mind is excited about a Geodude? That's me, and I shouldn't say that. Geodude's very cool. I mean, it's literally a cool dude. The real question is, what do I call this rock that is impossible to distinguish from other rocks? X to doubt, but we'll roll with it. It slams against others in contests of hardness. Okay, this would have also been a good list of chick's name. What IPPC member slams their head against others in contests of hardness? Huh. Sorry, what non-listed checks IPPC member? I can't do Max because Maximus is my rival, so he's already kind of taken. I'm not actually certain. Also, give me 1 second to switch things around real quick. Come on. Come on. Move you over here. Move you over here. There we go. Move you back over. There we go. I'm just gonna pull up Discord real quick so I have a list of names I can sort through. What should I name this guy? Also, why is that over there? There we go. There we go. You're Unk if you were above the age of 5 when GTA dropped, by the way. Oh, jeez. Thank you for making me feel old, living dog. I appreciate that. God. Who is Geodude? I don't want to do living dog because I want to hold out for an actual mammalian creature. I don't want to do Mr. Light because... I mean, I feel like I don't have to explain that one. I could do Alex, suppose. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I don't really got much. Let me just... Where was he, actually? When in doubt, just go with people who are actually here. So you know what? I don't got any better ideas. We're just gonna add Hexu to the team. Much as I shit on Geodude, I do actually like him quite a lot, so I wouldn't mind using Hexu on the team. There we go. Alright, Hexu the Geodude. And also, I just realized I also caught a Starly, so I need to add that. Give me 1 second to listen to this music. I mean, adjust my feed down here. Let's change this image to icons. And where is Starly? There you are. And bam. Wait, is that? Doesn't quite look... No, that's fine. That's fine. Then we've also got our Geodude. We're already nearing the 1 hour mark. I mean, technically. I don't know how, with all the technical difficulties. Stream did start 5 minutes in, so we actually have 12 minutes left. Yeah, exactly. We got plenty of time. I also don't really have a hard limit on this thing. I just probably won't go over 2 hours, just because I think the longer this goes on, the more and more difficult this try not to pass out challenge will become. Where the heck is Geodude? Oh, this might actually... The icons might be only for Gen 4 in this file that I have. I think it is only Gen 4, yeah. Yeah, so I'd need to go over to Gen 1, or Fire Red Leaf Green. Let's see... Geodude, where are you, my friend? Never thought I would ever say this, but Geodude is surprisingly hard to find. Here we go. There we go. Yeah, Mr. Light, ain't that the truth? You don't need to remind us of all the time passing at any occasion. Us old folk can't take that much. Yeah, come on, you gotta be considerate of us, living dog. Old folk. I mean, I'm only in my late 20s, but I think that's plenty old to qualify. Me unintentionally, quote-unquote, adding into the fueling the fire. You know what? Is that fine? I think that's fine. Yeah. Geodude's a little bit... just way more detailed than the others because it's in a different file. But you know what? That'll do. That'll do. We can fix that later. I do wonder if I'm the youngest IPP Sim member. Living Dog, I'm pretty sure you're the only one who's not an adult here. You're the baby of the group. But there's nothing wrong with that. Quirky, impetus and silly, happily eats anything. Hexu, if you're still here, you're gonna have to tell us how. Rockhead, oh, that is a seriously good ability. I am actually really excited for that. I am so happy to hear that. Okay, let's hurry up and get through this thing. And this guy too. I don't remember how much health Summoner is at because I am terrible at this. Okay, he's doing fine. He's doing just fine. Level 11. Water Sport. The most useful game. The most useful move in the entire game. Without question. Sport moves are such garbage. I mean, they do have their uses, like in double bows and stuff, but even then, like, do they really? Oh god, not this. Oh god, not this. There's someone here. Hey, Maximus. Huh? Oh, it's you, Miss G. You finally got here? You're slow like always. You're so slow, the gym leader's long gone now. Damn, I did not realize this was a roasting session for me. Okay. Thanks, Max. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, bro. Okay, Hexu is here. Just in the toilet. Got back like 5 minutes ago. Well, welcome back. You are now Geodude, by the way, in case you didn't notice. I hope you enjoy the choice you did not make. My internet is going wild. If it wants to work or not today. That does sound like the internet, though, to be fair. Oh my god, I love this route theme. You're gonna hear me say that a lot, by the way. I love it so much, I almost don't want to fast forward. But also, we got places to be, things to do. We ain't got time for this. So, there's some really cool Pokemon I could get in this route. There's mainly Ponyta and Machop. I don't know if there's any other thing I can get here, so I will take a Machop. Very cool. I would have liked a Ponyta. It's one of the only, like, fire types in the game. But you know what? We're going with it. Okay, we got Machop. So who do we want to name the superpower Pokemon? Its muscles never cramp however much it trains. Lives in the mountains away from humans. Okay, so we gotta name a Recluse now. A Recluse, huh? A Recluse combat figure. You know what? Let's just... I am looking at my Discord server right now, and I do... How about framing it as a tireless Recluse? Yeah, I don't know if we have... I mean, I guess you could argue that the entire IPPC is made up of tireless Recluses. I guess that's technically not incorrect. But also, I can't just name this the IPPC, so... I don't know. What do we do for this guy? I definitely don't want to use Alex's name in vain. And I think pretty much everyone here has already been used, except for, again, Living Dog and Mr. Light, holding on to that one, and of course Neon Zombies if you're still here. But those feel like very back pocket names we should hold out on. I'm not a recluse, though. Really? Well, I guess you're 16. Teenagers are kind of obligated to not be recluses. Not that that stops them oftentimes, but... Let's see... Who is our Machop? That is the question. Who's the strongest member of the IPPC? Who is the superpower member? I have a 16 BMI, so I think I'm about 10 miles from this conversation. Oh my goodness, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, Living Dog. You know what? I actually haven't seen this person really on the chats very much, but... Heck, if I don't know, I don't know. So, I'm just going off of the usernames I have here. And he's gonna be, I don't know. I don't know. Alright, I don't know, the Machop is on our team. Which means I also have to update this and throw him onto here. Let's see. That is going to be Gen 1, obviously. Machop is Gen 1. And so it should be somewhere over here. I don't know, my evil twin. Opposite of Sumknown. Exactly. And he's also ripped and unbreakable, so he's definitely your evil twin, the anti-Sumknown. It's about as anti-Sumknown as you can get, methinks. I can't wait for us to have an in-person meetup with with the IPPC, and Sumknown just walks in, just this hulking mass of a man. And there we go. Look at that. There, we've got our first full team. Obviously, it'll be changing as time goes on. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because this obviously isn't exactly a, this isn't exactly an A team. But you know what? It's what we got right now, so it's what we're working with. And I don't know in particular is going to be useful for this gym, because I do not have a whole lot of people who are ready to eat rocks beyond, obviously, Sumknown right here. Though I do also have the encounter for the Orberd Tunnel, so fingers crossed with that one. Alrighty, so speaking of the Orberd Tunnel, I guess we can just head on in. I'll probably train up I don't know in a minute. And Hexu too. Ugh, so much training to do. Considering I think me and you live in the same state, Adri, I don't think it's impossible for a real-life meetup. I mean, you say that, but also the real state is California, which is frankly big enough to be a country on its own. I mean, it's no Texas, so impossible is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Sumknown, I would have to swim quite far. Remind me where you're from, Sumknown? I know you're part of what makes the IPPC international, which is the I, so I'm blanking though. I know Alex is obviously Peru. I know a lot of people are Latin America, but are you gonna give me something? Or are you just gonna, no, you're just gonna praise me for exploring the mines as a freaking 10-year-old girl. Thanks for that. Very good. I may be that hulking mass you imagined me to be once I swim all the way from Sweden. That's right. That's right. You were talking about the Swedish confectionaries and not confectionaries, but the Swedish snacks, the culinary cuisine. Super potion. Love to see it. I mean, yeah, if you can make the swim all the way to California from Sweden, first of all, you're gonna have to tell us what route you took, because that sounds incredibly impressive. But also, my goodness. I don't think we have too many Europeans in the IPPZ Living Dog. I don't know if... Okay, Zubat's my encounter. Very cool. I don't know if... Does Russian count as European? I guess it sort of does. I think it's technically Asian. But obviously we've got... yeah, we've got List of Chicks of Russia. We've got... Looks like Mr. Light as well. Okay. Some known as, of course, from Sweden, as he said. Where are you from, Mr. Light? You have to swim through the Panama or the Suez and through the Pacific around Africa and around South America. Yeah, Living Dog, some known has quite the adventure ahead of him in order to make it to that meetup. And there's certainly no other possible way he could make it to California. I think we can all agree with that. Actually, you'd say Russia's European? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of both, right? It's Eastern Europe and also Asia, because Russia's so fuck huge. It almost feels like it should be its own continent at this point. If you're west of it, you're European. Yeah, I suppose that's also true, yeah. If you're Russian, at least, yeah, so they're probably Asian. Oh, good point, Sumknown. You are a Piplup, which is a water type, so if anyone can swim across the oceans, potentially, I guess it would be you. Now, we do have this Zubat. I gotta go back to my name. Someone who lives in caves and rarely goes out. Okay, I think this is well-deserved after all of these, like, not really knowing what to name Pokemon. But this is a creature who lives in caves and rarely goes out into the light, to the point where it literally doesn't have eyes. I mean, it kind of writes itself, right? It wasn't exactly what I was planning on naming you after, but it feels like a crime not to. It feels like a crime not to. The irony is too delicious to possibly ignore. Naming a blind bat Mr. Light. Come on. Come on. What kind of man would I be if I didn't take that? Also, I realized I should have waited until I got in here because there's a chance of getting an Onyx. But, you know. The real crime is not having Luxray be Mr. Light. I know, right? I know. We got him last time, though, so I didn't really have a chance to name him Mr. Light. It's such a shame. It's such a missed opportunity. I mean, it is nice that JT got a spot here, because it doesn't seem like he's here right now, so he got a spot in early. But yeah, naming Shinx Mr. Light would have been perfect. Though that does, I would say, if nothing else, that does add to the sacrilege of calling a Zubat Mr. Light, which is quite hilarious if I do say so myself. So I think it works. I think it works. Like I said, if anything else, it just makes the sacrilege even worse, even more unacceptable. Okay, I haven't actually checked out I don't know's moveset, so he does have a fighting type move, which is good. Which is very good to see. Neon Zombies used to be in Samoa, so it would have been quite a big swim for me before. Okay, fair enough. And that certainly would have been quite the swim. Mr. Light, before I say where I'm from, what vibe do I give off according to you? That is a difficult question to answer, my friend. I mean, given how, like, well-spoken and eloquent you are, and especially how good with English you are, I mean, that goes for everyone. That feels like it's not even a qualifier anymore, because, like, half the IPPC, English is a second language, and yet they certainly don't show it. So maybe I shouldn't use that as a thing, but off the top of my head, I would say UK. You've definitely given clues before Light. Yeah, I feel like he has. But UK is like my first thought. Even though that does feel too boring. Does it? Yeah, of course that counts as European. Also, let's not have Hexu die here. That would not be good. I mean, it's a Geodude. How, I don't know who's gonna break down crying if we lose its Geodude, but I'd rather not lose Hexu so soon. I know Light doesn't have English as a native language. I wouldn't be surprised. That's just kind of a safe assumption for everybody. Was that someone else? Some known. What was I just talking about? Everybody. That's everybody in the IPPC, except for, like, me. I'm pretty much the only person here. Oh, hey. Perfect timing. To use... Oh, that hits a lot harder than I wanted to. Experience is worth it, though. Nice. I don't think I have to fight anything else here, so I think I should be good. Okay, let's not accidentally send out Hexu, because that would just be a death sentence. I've always wondered if my native language was guessable from my way of writing. I don't think it is. I'm not sure what that means, actually. From your way of writing, I mean, you write pretty darn well for English, so no. Don't tell me you're part of the LATAM club. One of our multiple Latin Americans, surprisingly enough. I guess perhaps it's not that surprising, but... Hello, Rourke. Please break a rock in front of me. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Good talk. It is extremely hard to do so if you aren't familiar with the language structure. Yeah, as much as I love languages, I am not, like, familiar with other languages and how they, like, structure things. I mean, I barely even know that for English, so you were asking the wrong person. Oh! Je suis Français, mes amis. French. Very well. Excellent. We got a Frenchie here. Wait a second. You're not the only French person we have. That's right, because in one of the live streams, I remember. You aren't the only Frenchie that we have here. In fact, though I haven't seen him in a while, we've got a Frenchie right here. Little Theo here. If you didn't see that stream, Mr. Light, that was, I think it was like my first or second stream I ever did. We just had a excellent, wholesome roasting session of the French. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. And I think I made it a separate VOD too. I don't remember if I've gotten around to posting that one yet, but yeah, we had a very wholesome roasting session of the French because, I mean, who doesn't, let's be honest. So if you like checking that out, go ahead and do that. I'm too tired right now. The historian in me is like sleeping, so I'm afraid I won't be able to provide it right now, but definitely check that out if you're interested. We had a great old time. I think I made a separate video just basically about the IPPC and like how they're all like international from all different places. So it was just a really fun stream. Though speaking of, we do need to figure out what we're gonna do with streams moving forward. Obviously not these like Pokemon streams, but like the actual weekly streams that I have. We've got to figure out what I'm going to do because I've pretty much reached the end of my backlog of things I wanted to make the streams about. So at this point, it's basically just, we're kind of open. We can do whatever we want to. If you guys have topics that you want me to center the stream about, if you want to actually just start adding in the games and playing them on there, or I don't know, if you just want to like shoot the shit and play as I like play Minecraft or something. I'm very, like I said, the door's open, because I don't have specific plans for streams moving forward now that we've got the red button, blue button thing out of the way. So yeah, leave those suggestions in this chat, obviously on Discord if you want to, and we'll see what we can do. Next one's of course going to be on next Sunday, so you've got plenty of time, no rush at all. Gotta heal this guy up. Oh, now we're trying to figure out where Hexu's from. He said you're close to Russia. And he is in Europe. Ooh. let's get, I don't know, leveled up a little bit. We're about to hit the gym, but actually, you know what? I need to switch train a little bit because I don't know when you get the experience share actually in here. So switch training is going to be the name of the game for quite a while. And I am playing with a soft level cap, so like I just try not to get over it. So I don't want to use some known too much here, because otherwise he'll get even more overwhelmingly powerful than he already is, and we can't have that. We've got to keep balance here. Bordering a small part of it, Hexu. I am very bad at... Oh, I'm an American, so it kind of goes without saying that I'm not good at geography. So I'm not even gonna pretend like I can guess here. But I am curious to see what people in the chat will come up with as we try to figure out where this Geodude is from. So like no Asian question, yeah. One thing that helps is that many normal French words are basically fancy English as loan words. Well, Mr. Light 2 can play at that game. I'll have you know that many more English words are just less fancy words that are stolen directly from French, as well as every other conceivable language. So I think we've got you beat there a little bit. But I suppose that does give you an advantage when it actually comes to speaking and typing English. Though I do have, like, eternal respect for anybody who, A, even attempts bothering trying to learn this godforsaken language, but also, like, actually succeeding and speaking more fluently than some actual fluent English speakers. The amount of respect I have for that, like, I cannot put it into words. As a native English speaker, I literally cannot imagine the struggle. Not Estonia. Why do rock types have to be so defensive? It's almost like they're specifically adapted to cancel out the weakness of fighting types. Such a pain. Latvia. Ooh, that's a good guess. I'll probably try to get everyone to at least level 10. We'll see where we go from there. Except maybe Bidoof, I don't know. I don't know how long Bidoof was going to be a part of this team. And I don't know how opposed to that I am. I certainly wouldn't mind. Oh, Karate Chop. Oh, that is huge. That is actually massive. I did not realize he got that so soon. Poland. Does Poland share a small border with... with Russia? I guess it could at this point, but... Don't tell me it actually is Poland. That was my first thought, but I didn't want to say it because it felt too obvious, which I realize kind of means nothing. It is Poland. Okay, cool. So we got the Polish here. Man, it is amazing how the IPPC just continues to be more and more I. That is so crazy. Like, what are the odds that this group would just be from absolutely everywhere? And hey, there's my first Onyx. That took forever. You know what? I gotta try the Karate Chop. It's not gonna do anything with something with this much defense, but... Actually, low kick would probably do a lot more. Oh, never mind. Just got a crit. Rest in peace. Rest in pepperoni. Oh, you got Rock Polish at some point. Wow, Geodude's moveset is truly exciting, truly inspirational, isn't it? Doing just like a pretty important part of history. I'm just slow and can't remember anything. Yeah, I feel that. As a historian, I probably shouldn't admit that I'm terrible at history, but I'm pretty bad at history. Feel the bags on my eyes just weighing me down. Speaking of backs of my eyes, it looks like Hexu's getting ready to sleep. It's almost 2 a.m. here. Oh my god, you should definitely be asleep, but thank you for dropping by. I'm not sure why you did when it's so late. You should definitely get to sleep before that, I recommend. But thank you for dropping by. I hope you enjoyed your time here. I will do my best to make sure you're still alive for the next stream. Thankfully, you are a Geodude, so, but you also don't have Sturdy, but also Sturdy sucks here, so I guess I wouldn't save you. Yeah, there's like probably like a 50% chance you're gonna die. I mean, you're a Geodude. I don't know how much Pokemon knowledge you have, but there's like a 50-50 chance you'll be here next time. As tanky as these things are, they love to die almost like nothing else. It's almost 2 a.m. here too, for some known. I guess that's true. A lot of you guys are in like similar time zones. Free to operate at 2 a.m. Yeah, because Europe, I guess. I guess that's the downside to the IPPC being so international. So many people are in time zones that are just not the most convenient when I'm based in PST, California, of course. Maybe I should take that into consideration. Maybe I should try to find a time to start streaming that like fits European time. Because so many of the IPPC are from Europe. Maybe trying to match to your schedule would be better than this one. Guess why I'm sleep deprived today, Mr. Light. Oh god. But we do also have several members from Latin America, and that would be closer to PST, so I don't know, maybe we should... I guess we could always just hold a poll on the actual Discord, because those are the main people who attend the streams. So it's probably better to like discuss among us who in the IPPC and like when I would stream to get the most, most amount of us like participating in it, you know? And we can probably do a poll there. It seems like most of the IPPC is like divided between being in like Europe. Oh, Hexu's learning a move. Rock Throw. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's excellent. It's about time. That is actually incredible. He is not useless. I don't know if Hexu... I think Hexu just stepped out. He stepped out right before he learned Rock Throw. Ugh, talk about timing. Well, he is now not useless. That's exciting. That's awesome. Let's get out of here. Now let's heal up. Ooh, that was a nice straight shot. That's very convenient. Yeah, what we need to do in the Discord is we need to like make groups. We need to make like the Latin America group, the the US group, and then the European group, and then figure out who else is from other places, and we can go from there. And we need to like have like turf wars, like do polls and just do battle between the Latin Americans and the Europeans. I don't think there's enough actual Americans for us to really be a group, but just ridiculous thoughts. So GMT +2 is for a lot of them, for a lot of Europe, and for PST. France is GMT +1 and it's 7 hours ahead of me and I'm CST. Okay, gotcha. Time zones are so confusing. Maybe that says more about me than it does about the time zones, but the fact that there are like 3 separate time zones within America alone, but obviously Lista Chicks is in freaking Russia, so I'm pretty sure he has like 5 different time zones. But so maybe I shouldn't be complaining. But considering I've lived in like the past year, I've lived in both Chicago as well as obviously California, where I am now. I've had time both as in PST and CST, so I've just playing around with the different time zones. And before, when I was in the Marine Corps, I should not have Theo fighting against a Machop. What am I doing? God, there's that distraction again. It's gonna happen, I swear. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. I'm not gonna be ready for it. None of us gonna be ready for it, and that thing's just gonna die. And I don't know who's gonna be the first one to drop due to my negligence, but it's going to happen. The sun will go up in about 2 to 3 hours for me. Bro, go to sleep. I mean, you never know. He could have woken up 2 to 3 hours before the sun comes up. That could always be true. I wake up at like 4:30, which is well before the sun comes up, so he might not have just skipped sleep for tonight. Maybe he just woke up early. Unknown, you just woke up early, right? Surely. The idea of changing time zones within the same country is foreign to me. Yeah, I guess that's fair. I mean, France is a lot less horizontally extended. I mean, like, most of Europe operates under the same time zone, right? So, yeah, I guess America and Russia are like the two big ones that just, and I guess by default, like somewhere like Canada, but there aren't too many that are just stretched out. It's very convenient, never confusing at all. And the fact that Texas also has like two, if not three, all three of those time zones. So dumb, so ridiculous. France is actually a country with the most time zones, actually, thanks to former colonies. Okay, well, I don't know if we should count that. I don't know if we should count former colonies. I think you're splitting hairs, Mr. Light. I think you're splitting hairs with that. Summer in Sweden mean the sun is up really early. Oh, that's true, Unknown. I guess it is summertime already, huh? It's already June. That is genuinely unbelievable. That is actually ridiculous. I swear to you it was February like 2 weeks ago. I don't know where the year has gone. French Guiana and the Asian island, I think, and some African islands, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, that's splitting hairs. That's not right. That's not fair. We're talking about like France. We're not talking about those colonies, about those territories. Only America gets to count distant territories as part of itself, i.e. Hawaii and Alaska. You guys don't get to do it. That's our privilege, not yours. Don't you take my privilege. Tails level 10, there we go, okay. There we go. I think I'm going to regret saying this, but we might be about ready to fight the gym. In my city, the sun can be up for 17 to 18 hours. My goodness. Unknown, that is insanity. What about Securina? It doesn't even set on some days. I guess, yeah, because of how... Yeah, because Sweden is pretty far north, so the days get really long, right? I know, like, obviously, as far as, like, North Pole, then they get some really insanely... Oh... Cover my mic. So I'm not saying I do want to trade away one of my IPPC members. But I do really like Abra. And I technically don't have an encounter in Orberg City. Though if I do it, I should probably wait until I get out of the rock gym, huh? I should probably wait until I actually fight the gym leader who my fighting type is like designed to fight against before I trade him away. Because Abra will not be nearly as useful in this gym as Machop will. Maybe I should consider that later. Maybe I should not be hasty. I'm trying to see if there are any other items here that I can do. Wait, were you looking for a Zubat? Not the stairs trap. Show me a Pokemon called Zubat. Yeah, I do actually have a Zubat. I can show you that. Meow. In fact, we haven't checked out this Zubat, so let's see what he's about. Mr. Light, of course. How could I forget? Lax nature. Little quick tempered like sour food. Okay, I don't know about that one, but inner focus. That sounds more like Mr. Light. I would really like to add him to my team. I might actually swap him out for Theo, even though I probably shouldn't do this right before the fighting gym, but I really like Zubat, so I do want to put him on my team sooner rather than later. The days get really short in the winter. Yeah, that's true. The higher you go, right? The longer the days, the longer the nights. Okay, you're giving me a heal ball. Wow, that was definitely worth it. Genuinely crazy that France still has a colonial empire, even if the most important thing at all is French Guyana. Yeah. I mean, it is crazy, like, however you want to interpret it. Like, on one hand, the fact that it, like, actually has colonies. I don't know if they're still, like, technically called colonies. But, I mean, if you really think about it, like, the imperial era and, like, colonial colonization never really ended. We just kind of stopped calling it that, if you really think about it. Psyduck yellow, that would make naming so much easier. But I mean, it all depends on, like, how you define it, right? Like, we tend to frown on these things if they're more direct, and, like, if you obviously just directly have colonies and you call yourself an empire and you act like a warmonger, like North Korea, Iran, things like that. Like, we tend to frown on those things, but we also have a tendency to overlook that we're not really that different in a lot of ways, and admittedly, it's more soft power these days than it is hard power. There's a lot more talk about it's a lot more about controlling through money, right, than it is through actual like, well, military force certainly, but overseas territories and regions, Mr. Light. Yeah, exactly. Overseas territories. But I mean, like, is there really that much of a distinction, right? And, like, yeah, sure, we're not, like, sending armies to go and conquer things anymore, but the amount of control that these quote-unquote former empires still exercise over these weaker powers is to such a degree that, like, it's kind of hard to call it anything other than basically what it is, which is maybe not colonialism, but, like, imperialism, right? Exerting power over others. Through, maybe not through physical force, but certainly through intense economic pressure, let's say. There's some Pokemon games that have Archipelago mods. Check which ones. Ooh. Look back to hearing what results you get, some known. And yeah, I'm back to training a little bit more just because I want to get my Zubat up a little bit better. Because if, in the chance that things go really badly, he does have Supersonic, which could be a clutch move in, like, a desperate situation. And obviously, I would much rather not have Mr. Light die if I can help it. So I'm going to train him up a bit. Try to get Mr. Light to not be useless in this potential gym. Hopefully I'm just deeply over-concerned and some known is just going to prove how much of a beast he is and just absolutely annihilate this gym. That's definitely my goal, but it's not what I'm going to count on. Shingen space is a EU thing. I'm not familiar with that, actually. Like moving between nations. Okay, interesting. The Eurozone, yeah, there's so much stuff that I am not familiar with in Europe and in the EU and all that stuff. As an American, I'm just happy to remain ignorant and not know too much about that stuff and just kind of leave it at that. I'll let you guys deal with that. The EU is a big mess. Hot take of the century right there. I think it even does mine from earlier. It's a big mess, but it is quite cool. It is. It is. Both can be true. And also leaving the EU when you have absolutely no plan and didn't really leave it up to a popular vote is arguably even more of a big mess. Not calling out anyone in particular, of course. But, I mean, obviously, like, no one's gonna sit here and pretend the EU is, like, thriving financially and it's, like, set to overtake America any day now, right? It's, like, the global superpower and it's entirely great. And, like, everything is going perfectly. There's a lot of people who have a lot of criticisms about it. But when you think about it, both, like, even just fundamentally, the idea that it's like a United States, but for nations instead of states, is kind of phenomenal. And the fact that it's been going on for all of these decades, and I'm like, choosing my words carefully, it's not like currently collapsing like the USSR did. Like, clearly it's not doing everything wrong. Clearly it's not doing everything right, but it's not doing everything wrong either, right? There's something that's working about it, and there's something that I feel like we could take from something like the EU, right? Like, and not the similar thing that we would take from, like, the United Nations, the UN, which is, like, completely useless, right? It does absolutely nothing. But, like, the EU actually, like, does things. It actually has an impact on the world, unlike the UN. And I can't help but wonder if we actually, like, put more of a lens on the EU, then, like, we could probably learn a lot more lessons with how nations like interact with each other, how we can potentially form coalitions, again, like a US, but for nations. And there's certainly things we could, like, learn how not to do, like how voting works and how a lot of people just kind of feel like they're even more distant from the government because obviously the EU is, like, even more detached from the national government. But, like, there are lessons we could learn from it, right? And I think we're in such an attitude, especially these days, of, like, trying to tear down things that we don't like how they're working, because there's a lot of discontentment in the world, and a lot of very understandable and very valid discontentment in the world. But that doesn't change the fact that there is a lot we can take from it if we actually start looking at the good, rather than just trying to destroy what is going poorly. Actually looking at what does well and what could potentially do well if we adjust a little bit, and then actually try to apply it to the future, right? Like, you could argue political scientists are doing that right now. Obviously, they're analyzing everything, but, like, we also have a society, right? We have that responsibility too. It's not just, like, political scientists and the people who are so far beyond us in those academies and those universities that are doing these things. Like, we are citizens, right? I'm not an EU citizen, but we should be the change that we want to see. So if we want to see something that's bad that we want to criticize, yeah, we shouldn't be afraid to do it. But we also shouldn't be afraid to say, hey, this thing is surprisingly not fallen apart, right? The idea of a bunch of nations, foresight could be interesting. Actually, against ghost types, that would be really useful. As much as I like all of these moves, I'm gonna get rid of Lear. Loki could be too useful. So unknown is the first team number. Let's go. That's true. All the way up to 13. I didn't know it was close behind, though, so a very short-lived trophy. But you know what I mean? Like, we're in such a environment of, like, criticizing things and of trying to tear things down and being frustrated and wanting everything to change. And again, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's unwarranted. At the same time, I can't remember the last time I've seen people parading around politically about things that are going well, right? Like, things that are going well with the EU. Like, again, the fact that it is a case in point that you can have a coalition of nations, in a sense, with a lot of standardized things and not end up like the USSR, right? I feel like we don't give enough attention to that even though it's not, like, thriving in an insane way. And yeah, I saw what Mr. Light says. You just want to overtake the US. I don't want your labor laws, for example. Yeah, of course. I'm just talking about, like, economically speaking, you know, as a global power. But, like, even if it's not thriving to the degree that, again, say, like, America is, for all the wonderful reasons that America is thriving, right? like, there is a lot of good we can take from it, a lot of good we should be taking from it, and just the fact that it's a case study that these kinds of things can work. Nations can work together. You know, these people who have, as Mr. Light is saying here, all these European prideful nations, not only prideful, but like literally historically at war, right? Europe has been one of the most conflict-ridden like places in history because of all these different like nation states that have been battling each other and like having all this bad blood. Just look at France and Germany. But, like the fact that they're all working together to some degree and it hasn't imploded on itself entirely, we should like look at that and say, hey, maybe we can fix out some of the kinks, iron them out, but also like apply them on other scales and on larger scales. And maybe we can actually get out of the idea that politics and global politics in particular is a zero-sum game, because too many people are like in that mindset, and it's ridiculous, right? It is not a zero-sum game. Rising tide lifts all boats. But of course, there's just so much discontentment, and the world's not in a great place for a lot of people, so it's kind of hard to focus on the positives when things don't seem like they're going super well. So I know that's kind of like wishful thinking on my part, but even if it's wishful thinking and not like realistic, I think it's worth saying. I'm not a big fan of the EU law taking precedent over national law. I am a big fan of open borders and the free trade and such between them. Yeah, exactly. And things like standardized currency, easy travel between the nations, right? Those are all some really great things. If you want to like move to another nation or just visit another nation, it's so much easier to do that than it is to like go from the EU to like say Russia or even to like the UK, right? The Living Dog does bring up a good point. That is something I mentioned before. The fact that the EU kind of taking precedent over a lot of national law. I mean, it is similar to the US with its states in a lot of ways, right? But ironically, in this current like political environment, it does backfire to a large degree because like there is a lot of discontentment with governments, right? With like governments being distant and not being separate, being too separate from the people. And I'm not entirely like educated on how European people view that kind of issue as opposed to like Americans. I know Americans, it's like really bubbling over. But again, having this like overarching government that's so far away from most of the nations it's governing feels like it's only really feeding the feeling that like the government is separate, right? That we don't really have a say, that they're kind of our overlords, that we're almost like colonies. But that's a bit of a extreme example, but also like, what are you gonna do, right? You can't really have all these people working together without some sort of central meeting place at the very least, where people can like talk about things. Scandinavia is even easier to get between. I can just take the train to Denmark whenever without thinking too much about it. People from Norway go to Sweden to buy groceries because it is cheaper. Wow, that is incredible. That is incredible. And that is a whole nother point. Like, as an American, I could go on an endless rant about public transportation and how America is like so uniquely anti-public transportation. Almost like aggressively, but almost absurdly anti-public transportation. So I've considered moving like to the EU several times for many different reasons. One of which just being to see like what it would be like to live in a Western nation that actually gives a shit about public transportation and isn't like designed around the automobile industry as the vast majority of America is. Mr. Light, during my studies, I lived in a city where you can take the tramway to go to Germany. All the way, just go to Germany from France, just on the weekend. Might as well, just a weekend trip with your friends. Not a big deal. Ooh, there's an interesting take from Living Dog. I should also say I don't think a state should exist, but I'm sort of putting that aside. Because I'm like, what's the fun in saying the EU is bad because the state is bad? Clarification, Living Dog. What do you mean by state? Are you referring to state as in, like, the United States, like those smaller states? Or are you referring to a particular state? As in, like, the state of matter, like water? No, but are you referring to, like, a state as, like, a nation state? Because obviously, like, a state is a word that we use for very different levels, so it can mean many different things for many different people. As an American, obviously, I have my own basic definition of it, but as Europeans, you guys generally probably have a different definition because you don't really have the states that we have. Well, Scandinavia has been at war for a lot of history. Sweden and Denmark have been at war a lot. We are basically now siblings as countries. Yeah. I mean, spending all that time together, like, especially with all the craziness in history, like, especially in things like the 20th century, I feel like at some point you've got to build that camaraderie, right? If you've been together, neighbors, for that long, and none of you have, like, annexed the other, and you both haven't been annexed by a greater power, like, at some point there's got to be some level of camaraderie that's building up there. Probably get at least one more level on Mr. Light. Really trying to minimize the chances of something terrible happening to Mr. Light because Crobat is absolutely phenomenal. So I really hope we can get to a point where we get Crobat out here. Stated in a national form of government, I think would be a good definition. I think all laws should be reduced to the local community as in the city. Oh, interesting. So you'd actually go the opposite direction. You would say that far from, like, the EU, we should have, like, larger governments covering everyone. You think we should break down those larger things and have smaller communities. And presumably, I mean, I assume you're not against, like, these cities, let's just say, if we're saying that as the body of government. I assume you're not against them having, like, representatives coming together to, like, discuss things between different cities. But, like, also, isn't that sort of what the EU is? That's sort of what these larger governments are, or at least what they're supposed to be. These larger bodies that have representatives from the smaller states that are supposed to have the actual power. Though I guess that's kind of been twisted out of that shape for quite a while now. I mean, not all countries that have been at war for long have developed camaraderie. That's very true, Sumknown. I mean, obviously there are some nations, like especially a lot of Middle Eastern nations that have just kind of been at war for basically ever, for like all of history. I mean, not that those states have existed for all of history, but like those generational wars and stuff. But I mean, when you have things like Scandinavia, and you have these places that have been at war a lot, but aren't like fundamentally opposed to each other, you know? Like how you have the, I mean, again, just referring as an example to the Middle East, like they have a lot of like religious and like deeply rooted cultural beliefs, right? That like almost demand the eradication of each other. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like Scandinavia and sort of Scandinavian countries don't really have that animosity with each other. I mean, I'm sure they've got a lot of like things they would like that the other person has. But like, if you don't have that bad of bad blood, eventually like people can only war at each other for so long, for so many centuries, for so many millennia, before at some point you're just like, we're just kind of in it for the long run, aren't we? We should just accept it at this point. Not to say that that's certainly always the case, but it seems like in certain cases that is how things end up happening. Even if it's certainly not a straight road to get there. Just look at places like China and Japan. I guess it would be a stretch to call them buddies per se, but I mean, heck, look at France and Germany. They've had a historic rivalry, right? Quite an intense rivalry at times, but look at the present right now. And really, a lot of the European nations, there's a lot less animosity between them and, like, war between them than has historically been the case. And I don't think you can contribute that really to the EU. I don't think that would really stop people if they hate each other's guts. I think there is a certain degree of just proximity and of we haven't eradicated each other, and we probably won't eradicate each other anytime soon, so we might as well get along. And also, people are just naturally creatures that, like, you know, make bonds and get closer and get to know each other. And get to know each other even if it isn't through good things, right? I mean, as another extreme example, you have the enemies to lovers, right? Time spent together, even if it's time at war with each other, will eventually develop bonds of sorts. Won't always be good bonds, but a lot of times it can be. And you are going to develop feelings with people that you spend a lot of time with. And while these aren't people, these are obviously like generations, these are nations, these are cultures. I would say these same patterns that appear with humans tend to appear on larger scales as well, in a way that's difficult to really explain, since obviously larger cultures aren't biological, right? They shouldn't necessarily have the scaling ability that we often do see, but we often do see it. We see that large groups of humans that work together tend to operate like a very large human. So when two large communities interact, they often operate like two humans interacting, especially with larger scales when you look at the larger picture. Which is a really cool phenomenon. I'm sure there's a word for it, but I would not know it. So basically, like, freedom of association. Communities are free to physically remove people who they think would ruin their community. Open borders so everyone is able to move into every community they want, and also the now. If a community were to invade another community, the other communities would invade that aggressive community. Really hard to explain, cap off the dome. I usually reference books for exact definitions. This is my first time just freelancing it. Yeah, so, I mean, that kind of sounds like what you're describing with the UN, which is kind of what it is, right? Obviously, the communities are quite large in that case, but, like, not really passing laws per se, but just kind of managing things, and it's kind of like an agreement between these different communities. Napping the non-aggression principle, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, on one hand, like I said, this sort of, like, agreement between communities, but not necessarily making laws over each other, is very, like, UN coded. That's fine. Automod tried to cancel out your message, living dog. I think that's good, though. I think that's fine. I'm not here to police specific verbiage being used. Especially since we're talking about, like, political science and history. But I mean, like, I don't know. If you don't have, like, an actual governing body, and you just try to have it be, like, agreements between peoples, then, like, I think historically you've seen that doesn't really add up to much. I think people tend to just kind of walk over that stuff if we're not, like, if we're not actually making these groups and we're not actually, like, bringing our people together and making laws and trying to make changes that affect the larger group. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that. I do like the idea of, like, say you've got America, right? And you've got all the different states which are supposed to be the main powers, even though the central government has really just become its own government and, like, the overarching thing, and states are kind of falling into the backside, which is unfortunate. But, like, fundamentally, like, I guess I would say you often see that people don't really care if you just have, like, these agreements, these non-aggression principles between people. Perhaps because there's not enough, like, skin in the game, as it were. They're not part of these governments. They're not directly affecting each other. They're not making laws with each other. And while I don't necessarily like that, like I was saying with the US, I think there's a lot that, like, the national government does that it probably shouldn't do, that should just be up to states, because states are supposed to be the main powers. But at the same time, there are good things about it, right? Like, there's not a whole lot of threat of, I think that one are plenty strong enough to fight the gym. There's not a whole lot of threat of like states attacking each other, right? Or like going to war with each other, certainly, but I mean, I wouldn't say they like each other necessarily. There's certainly a lot of feelings a lot of states have towards a lot of places. As a Californian, I can speak from quite a bit of experience with that, but I don't know, as much as I like the idea of actually leaving it to little communities, I think historically we've seen that doesn't turn out super well. My favorite story of these wars is how the Danish thought winter would make the Swedes calm down a bit, because bad weather. Also, the sea between them froze to ice, so no boats. King Charles X Gustav thought this was perfect. Now they can walk over the sea and attack instead. Second Northern War 1658. That is pretty awesome. The sea freezes over, we can't use our boats. I mean, what did we have before boats? Just fucking send our soldiers over and just trash them. That is a pretty awesome story. Ooh, speaking of pretty awesome, some known, you are just getting better and better. Heck is massive. Not in this gym, but just in general. It was quite a successful move, yeah, I imagine. The big issue with any type of anarchism is a state will always form, yeah. A state will always form, and when it doesn't, like, you said it yourself, right? Anarchism, things will kind of fall apart, and things won't end super well. Actually, before I start talking about that, I'm gonna start doing this real quickly just so we can have this absolutely incredible gym music playing in the background. Sweden won Scania, Blake and Holland. What do you mean I'll calm down? Now I can literally walk you. Awesome, Mr. Light. Okay, I think the most radical libertarian government that can form is minarchism, which I'm not super familiar with. Anarchy will never last, yeah. Because there will always be people who want to have more power, right? Who want to coalesce power, and people are obviously strong when they're in a group, right? Apes strong together. So if you have this anarchy and you try to actually make this a system, which is kind of a... I mean, it's already kind of contrary to itself, right? But if you have this thing where you try to have this be anarchy, people will form groups because people are stronger in groups. And groups will come together then because now everyone is in groups. So once everyone's in groups, they're basically like individuals. So now the groups have to group together in order to face off against the groups who are grouping together. And then, like you said, Living Dog, you've got a state, right? All of a sudden. If we try to go back to anarchy, we would literally just repeat history, just with a lot more technology and probably more nukes. I think the best thing we can do right now is just wait for AI to become intelligent enough to just take the reins of political power, and we just step back and just become pets. That's my stance. That's my stance. I'm a simple man. That's what I believe. The event of the war is known as March Across the Belts. Scania, war was probably the most mixed region of Sweden. Huh, interesting. Learning a lot about Scandinavia here. Perfect timing to get into Vinland Saga. Oh, Sumknown, you actually lived there. At the Scania. So you're basically the what is that called? The little state in like the middle of Europe. Switzerland. You're like the Switzerland of you're like the Switzerland of Sweden and Denmark. Where it's just like all throughout the world wars, it's just kind of sitting there. Well, I guess that's more neutrality. That would be more like Italy, that's like constantly switching sides and doing whatever it wants to do. Just kind of being the middleman. That's understandable. Oh boy, Mr. Light and Living Dog are starting to get into private property. But isn't it the same if you allow private property? Instead of state having power, it would be wealthy individuals. No, a wealthy person owning things would be bad if he creates a monopoly, but I'm an anarcho-capitalist, so I think monopolies are formed by state intervention And if they do ever form without the state, they won't last. That's really interesting, Living Dog. You think monopolies are formed by state intervention, and if they do ever form without the state, they won't last. So you think the monopolies that exist right now are formed by state intervention? I would say they were largely fueled by state intervention, but I wouldn't say they were formed by it. I mean, I guess it also depends on, like, your definition of monopoly. Like, you could technically argue Google doesn't have a monopoly on search engines because there's, like, Bing and stuff, but realistically it does. And I don't think there's a whole lot of arguments that the state was very impactful in that becoming a monopoly. I don't think that's really related to states. I think that's just a matter of, in the similar things that create states, like having these companies, right? And having companies rise to the top and basically fuel themselves. I think that in itself creates monopolies, and I don't think states really need to be involved. And that also does beg an interesting question. If you do have an anarcho-capitalist society, what does happen with, like, these things that aren't necessarily technically states, but, like, very large... What do you say? Like, these companies, like, these private states, practically, right? Like, obviously, Google or Nvidia aren't states themselves, but... If you like try to break down governments and you have the sort of anarcho-capitalist world, this is really scary that Kratos did a lot of damage. Some known... Actually, I am gonna need some, if anyone's actually paying attention to this, did some known take a hit, like take 2 hits, or was that a single hit that brought me down to 25? Because I could technically survive another hit, but that also means if they have a high roll, then it could wipe me out. Didn't the US have to introduce antitrust laws to specifically disband monopolies because there were no laws against it before? Yes, but monopolies that they did disband were already on the way down. I wouldn't call them a monopoly. I mean, again, I think it all really boils down to what your definition of monopoly is, Living Dog. I mean, if you want to, like, take the strict definition and say specifically, like, people who have no competition, company, which is a sole provider of a service, by definition. Yeah, but I mean, like, the reason why I'm saying that is if you have the sole provider of a service, like I said with Google, technically it doesn't have a monopoly of search engines, right? Like, there's, like, Bing and other things, but for all intents and purposes, it effectively has a monopoly. It doesn't actually have competitors, as it were. You can say, like, Microsoft Edge, but let's be honest, who really uses that? It's basically just Google. So you have these non-monopoly monopolies, right, that basically control the world. And, like, they don't fit as monopoly technically, but for all practically speaking, they do. Thank you, Sumknown. Taking care of yourself. Lost 17 HP in 1 hit. Okay, so I should be fine then. They're using a potion, I'm still fine, because that doesn't even heal all your health. Okay, perfect. We should be good with the gym battle, though. Looks like Sumknown continues to be an absolute beast, and just basically soloed this gym. Excellent. Pursuit, that was different. That should do even less damage, right? Yeah, we're good. We're good. Easy day. You don't yet. This exploitation should be ended by strike system only because of our culture. People should be striking right now across the world, yet they aren't. Yeah, I can agree with that, Living Dog. Yay, we beat the gym. Oh, Sumknown, let's go. First evolution too. All right, time for the awkward adolescent evolution. The Primplup is cool. Plenty cool on his own. Not quite the metal body yet, but congratulations, Sumknown. You are now a middle-sized penguin. And you've got Metal Claw, that's fun. Not that you can make particularly good use of it, but I wouldn't say it's useless. I'll take it, I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Light basically went ahead and said what I was already saying, like, you don't need a monopoly to exploit workers, right? You don't need a monopoly specifically where you have these where you have a single provider for a service, to have all the intents and purposes, all the effects of a monopoly. And you do need a state to like manage that power, right? I don't think many of us will argue that states who are like trust busting, like, you know, good old Roosevelt, I don't think there are many people who will argue he shouldn't have done that until it became a monopoly, right? It's good that he kind of asserted himself and actually stemmed the power of these things. And now you see, like, in the present day, right? Like, you've got... you've got the current American president, right? Donald Trump, who's, like, getting cozy with all these private companies, and you are seeing their power increase exponentially. So I think the state has a lot of responsibility, has a lot of power when it comes to these private companies. So trying to disassemble the state without really addressing the companies, the private governments, if you would, feels like a recipe for disaster to me. I was waiting for you to beat the gym, but now I also get an evolve. I am spoiled. Grab the screenshot, of course. The Sumknown is living on Cloud 9 right now, and I really hope that never comes crashing down due to a poorly placed critical hit. I am praying for you, my friend. No anarchism is realistic. I'd wish that realistically we can make any form of anarchism, even if it's something like anarcho-communism, simply because I just hate the state, but they are not really achievable. Yeah. And Living Dog, I think, that's kind of like a lot of people's stance on like things like capitalism too, right? Like, I don't think there are very many people who actually love capitalism, except for the highly successful capitalists. But we also all kind of just admit that we don't really have a better solution at the moment. So even though we don't like it, we're kind of just working with what we got, right? We're kind of just working with what we got, with the best thing that works. And if we get lucky, maybe we can find something in the future, but I wouldn't hold our breath. Especially with something similar to anarchism, which hasn't really been tried, and I would argue for good reason in history. Not that I don't see some benefits of it, especially given how poorly states have done, all things considered, but I don't know if, like, getting rid of the state is necessarily the right answer, if that makes sense. Okay, I need to lock in here because right here in the game is probably one of my favorite conversations in, like, the entire Pokemon franchise. Sumknown, do you want me to share the Evo clip in Discord? Absolutely, Sumknown. Do you even need to ask? Of course we want to see that. Of course we want to see that. Let's lock in. Best convo in Pokemon? Yes. This right here is, like, one of the best and one of the only I walked into it, that I remember in the entire game. Because it involves two of the greatest conversationalists, let's say, in the series. Team Galactic and Professor Rowan. Oh, Miss G, impeccable timing as always. These miscreants are babbling utter nonsense that I just can't stomach. Show them some manners, if you will. Oh, Professor Pokemon, must you be so difficult? That's not my name. We are approaching you strictly as businessmen. Businessmen with beautiful, luscious bob cuts of a teal variety? I don't even know. All you must do is provide us with all your research findings. In return, we'll refrain from causing massive damage to your assistant. Hey, don't talk shit to my Lucas like that. Miss G, join me and battle these guys. Uh-oh. Oh, wait, no, don't tell me. We'll have to wait until after the fight to be sure. I might be thinking of Platinum, though, if they adjusted the dialogue. We will see after this fight, but there's a chance that we might not get the absolute dialogue peak of this scene unless we were playing Platinum. We'll have to see until after this fight. I don't exactly remember, but... How is this madness possible? The two of us losing to children? This won't do. Time to retreat. This mission is a failure.
You leave us no option. We will retreat for now. Team Galactic's benevolent to all. We shall leave.
No, they're leaving. Ah, okay. I'm sorry, Living Dog. I got you all excited for that. We have to wait until Pokemon Platinum to actually. I mean, wait until it. I'm not gonna be playing it here, but in Pokemon Platinum, that conversation goes quite differently. Rather than just having Professor Rowan be like, help us with these miscreants, and then Team Galactic threaten Lucas and then just walk away. Like, Professor Rowan takes matters into his own hands, faces Team Galactic and goes, you all must learn several lessons about civility. And then he literally starts counting on his fingers. 1, don't get up in people's faces. 2, don't do this. 3, don't do this. And he just absolutely schools these fully grown man children. And it is just the the funniest scene in the entire franchise for me. I'm so sad that's only in Platinum, but I guess it just goes to show how much of an improvement Platinum is over Diamond Pearl. Which, if you weren't here for the last one, first of all, go ahead and watch that VOD once this is over, but I'm playing Pearl because this is my first Pokemon game I ever played, so it's kind of bringing me back to those days. Also, I love how he just walked in, beat a trainer, and then learned Bite. Just casually leveling up Sphinx by multiple levels of awesomeness. Not a big deal or anything like that. Let's keep using him. Can't do anything in there. Are you a trainer? You are. Oh god, not the Magikarp. Whatever shall I do? JT learned Bite at the perfect time, just to have a nice little snack. Delicious. But they're the Pokemon I got from my dad. Well, now they're dead, so I'm not gonna stick around for that conversation. You have fun with that, buddy. No, I should have named the clip Glorious Day after the Pokemon song by Eve, who made the first OP at JJK. Eve made a Pokemon song? I don't know if I knew about this, Unknown. I think you need to share that in the IPPC, and I need to watch that now, because I'm definitely gonna forget afterwards. Oh my goodness, that's pretty amazing. I would love to hear a Pokemon song by Eve, of all people. Okay, Ravage Path. Let's get a quick encounter in here. Aren't there only Zubats and Geodudes in here? I don't even know if I can get an encounter here. I can level up JT a little bit, though. I think my anarchism is more so fueled by the fact that I have not been pleased by the state. I could honestly say I've been grieved by it, or the institutions that have fueled it so. I'd prefer any form of anarchism, even one with no government, than any of what we have today. I mean, obviously, Living Dog, I can't comment on, your experiences, right? I can't comment on what the, state has done to you. I mean, I think we all have shared experiences of being wronged by the government, or governments. But at the same time, not to invalidate your experiences, but I do think it is a common, it's a common theme in humanity to have a particularly bad experience with something like a form of government, or with government itself, or my grandparents on my mom's side and my mom herself actually fled from Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and my grandfather fought in the Vietnam War for the South Vietnamese as a pilot, so fought directly with the US military. So he basically got him and his family basically first class tickets out of Vietnam during the Vietnam War at the end of it. However, since they were running from communism, obviously once they arrived to America, they ended up having a heavy bias, not just against communism itself, which basically tore their country apart, but basically through liberal and progressive ideology entirely. They were kind of sour to the entire thing, and now they're quite heavily conservative, more the grandparents than my mom, because of what extreme progressivism, right, communism did to their country. So it's a very real thing to like be wronged by a certain political system or like by a government, like you said, by the state. And it's very natural and understandable to harbor certain feelings about it, right? And become disillusioned by it and say like anything is better than this. But at the same time, I think it's exactly that kind of thinking, the thinking that anything would be better than what we've got right now because of how badly they treated me, that leads to absolutely horrible things happening, right? Like, most dictators who have ever come to power, especially in the modern era, came to power because they weaponized that same feeling of discontentment, right? The feeling that anything would be better than what we've got now. Even if we, like dictators feed off that stuff, right? They see something that people are unhappy with. Anything would be better than what we have now, and he says, I will fix it. And he says all these things that are, like, concerning, and people kind of look over it because it's something better than what they have now. It's something other than what they have now, and anything would be better than now. So I think it's a little too... I don't know, it just feels dangerous to me to see something that is clearly wrong, and I think there's a lot wrong with states. I think you're right, they've, like I said, wronged a lot of people. And I think we all have shared experiences of being wronged by governments and by states and by overarching power. But concluding that anything, like any form of anarchism, would be better than this because of how bad it is, I think underestimates how much worse our situation could be without states. Again, especially in the modern world where we have so many like private states, right? We have these companies that are maybe not monopolies, but for pretty much all intents and purposes are. I don't think any form of anarchy, except for one that like dismantles the power of private corporations, would put us in any better of a position, if not just in a worse position. I do need to give Rock Smash someone so I can proceed. But thankfully, a fighting type is right here. So we will do that. Let's get rid of... Yeah, let's get rid of low kick. That's fine. That's fine. I can also give Stealth Rock to Sumknown. I don't think you need that. I think I'll give it to Hexu. I think Sumknown is perfectly fine as he is. He's got plenty of good moves already. Okay, so Eve isn't actually singing the song. That's too bad. Still bad, the animation is great. Okay, cool. Look forward to seeing that Sumknown. I love that comment by Mr. Light. There sure are plenty of examples of states not deserving their existence. Truer words have never been spoken, my friend. It's not really my experiences, it's more so that I've been convinced that the state will always commit these wrongdoings. Through ANCAP literature, and now I've been reading a lot of political ideologies, and I've just become more convinced in my anarchism. I mean... Do you want to answer if you don't want? How would you describe yourself as politically, presuming on the left economically? My personal views are a little bit mixed, I would say. I wouldn't say I'm a centrist, but I would say most of my opinions are generally either pretty solidly on the left or pretty solidly on the right. So kind of like the opposite of in the center, though not that I would say I'm extremist by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, before I get to that, like, again about the state that will commit these wrongdoings, like, I guess first I would ask you what kind of wrongdoings you're specifically referring to. But I mean, I think to a degree, yes, like, anything, any group of people given enough power will commit wrongdoings, right? Will do certain things with that power. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. But I mean, you could argue the same thing with like police. And I mean, I guess you could very much make the argument that we shouldn't have police either. I think a lot of people make that argument. But, oh, actually, hold on. There's somebody who is going to give me a thing, right? After I beat the app. Oh, memo pad. Tracking down quick notes. How does that work? It's on here, right? I don't have a touchscreen. Why am I pretending like it does? like, given the opportunity, like, yeah, states will do certain things, right? States will do certain bad things, and they will take advantage of the power they have. But as you've said, it's kind of inevitable, right? Like you said yourself, even if we switched back over to some sort of anarchical system, and like if somehow like we could make the entire world like states just dissolve, like if we couldn't do that, then obviously any anarchical or even like borderline anarchical state would be like, or non-state would be absorbed by actual states, right? Big eat small. Big fuck small, as the saying goes. But like, if we were somehow able to press a magic button and just dissolve states entirely, like in the world, like, is there a world, is there a future where they don't just revert and like become states again? I don't think there is. I don't think there's a way we can put that genie back in the bottle, and I would argue that maybe there was never really a genie to put back into the bottle. Like, it's just the nature of survival, right? Of existence. That if we were to divide it into small communities, then the communities would eventually seek a way to overpower the other communities. What's the best way to overpower communities? Well, by forming allegiances with other communities, right? You form allegiances with other communities, and all of a sudden, if you don't form an allegiance with another community, then you will be absorbed by the bi-communities, or the duo communities, the group communities. So everyone forms groups and forms these communities of communities. And then everyone's equal again. So now you have to forge alliances with other alliances. And then you have to keep doing that, and you build yourself up. And if it sounds like I'm reading a history book to you, it's because I am. Obviously, that's just the history of civilizations, right? It's just how things happen, because it's obviously how things happen. So I guess in that sense, like, admittedly, I'm not super well educated or well researched on things like anarchy and like anarcho-capitalism. But from how you're describing it, if it does sound like it actually has potential solutions to the problems that we see with states, then at best, it would seem to me to be in the similar boat as communism, right? Or socialism, where it's not really achievable because, as one of my favorite comedians of all time, Jimmy Carr, says, right idea, wrong species, right? Humanity is the wrong species to try to actually realize these idealistic forms of government, these idealistic political concepts, because they will always be used and abused. The book that brought me into anarchism was Anatomy of the State, which I pirated about 3 years ago now. For legal reasons, that's of course a joke. It's got a physical copy. Okay, cool. As the cool books, that's right, you did mention that. Which phrases this much better than I can. If you want to further explore anarchism, by the way, I think I might do that. And like you said, you have it in that thing. If it is there specifically, I can go ahead and look that up, but Anatomy of the State, I might look into that, because that does sound really interesting. Because, I mean, at the top of my head, like, at a fundamental level, I would say I like the idea of, like, reverting and, like, going back to, like, smaller communities, like, potentially just using the example we had earlier in the stream of cities. It is nice, the idea that, like, we just have local governments, right? Local rule. And just kind of, like, do your thing, don't do, like, heinous crimes, you're fine, but if you do heinous crimes, we might, like, kick you out. And, like, ideally, we don't, like, go war with each other, right? We just kind of do our own thing, and I guess we trade with each other. But, like, even then, like, even in an ideal world, that doesn't really work, right? Because resources will always be an issue. We will always go to war and struggle over resources. Yes, we could have, like, trade systems between these communities, but we would always inevitably want more. And we would feel like we're getting the short end of the stick. I mean, it's a state example, but again, just look at President Donald Trump, who is saying that the world order that the US created is exploiting it. Like, people will always feel like they're getting the bad end of the deal. And that's where that conflict comes from, right? We're not just warmongering species just for the fun of it. We're doing it because, like, not because war is in our nature, but because a desire for more is in our nature. War is not in our nature, more is. So, like, I just don't see a world where humans could really achieve anything resembling anarchism. I think if we were looking for, like, an ideal world, or a world as close to utopia, to use a crazy word, as we can, I would actually argue that would be more in the direction of a universal government rather than a dissolution of governments. Like, if you had to do one or the other, I would argue it's more practical and more possible to achieve a better world through a universal government rather than a dissolution of governments. Because a dissolution of governments is basically just a mess waiting to happen. Whereas a universal government, while it would be far from easy and far from clean, actually has the chance to get everyone basically on the same page. And as I've mentioned with, like, the US, right? It has kind of, like, if you look at the US with the initial, like, 13 states, right? They were not very happy with each other. They were very much their own powers. And the US government didn't really exist. It was basically just the states coming together and talking, right? It wasn't really a government on its own. Flash forward to the Civil War. There's far more states, right? And they're still very not happy with each other because they have a civil war. Crazy how that happens. They're not really happy with each other, and there's, like, all this conflict, right? As the United States history has gone on, it has grown more and more powerful, and I certainly have my own thoughts about that, as I think pretty much every American and even a lot of non-Americans do. We have our own thoughts about the national government steadily drowning out state governments over the course of history. But one thing you can't really argue with is the conflict between states has all but disappeared. Now, that's not to say the anarchy. That's not to say the animosity has disappeared, right? That is the furthest thing from the truth. States have very strong citizens of states have very strong feelings about other states. Just look at, like, how a Floridian would talk about a Californian and vice versa. But there's no, like, conflict anymore, right? The stronger the national government has gotten, the less in conflict the states that it governs over get into conflict, right? Because the government is stronger and it's not ruling with an iron fist. At least for most of the modern history, the US government, the federal government, hasn't, like, forced states to stop fighting with, like, military threat. It's just made us feel a stronger sense of connection with each other through the national government becoming stronger. We feel more bonded with each other. And going back to, again, earlier in the stream, that's what I was talking about with the EU, right? It's far from perfect, but it's done a lot of good. It's been a good example of people who, by all means, shouldn't really be getting along, gotten along to a much greater degree than I think a lot of people thought possible. So I think, like I said, something resembling utopia is in our world that we exist in. If it were to be found anywhere at either end of the extreme of, like, governments and, like, large-scale rule, it would be on the side of a unifying government of the world more than a dissolution of governments. My issue with a global government is that the second we get a bad leader, we are fucked, and also it's a one-way lane to government overreach. Mr. Light says that's why democracy and the rule of law should act as brakes, emphasis on should. Yeah. Spurs Nix is on. Are we about to lose Living Dog? Are we gonna get are some sports action taking on? We might be about to lose them. I mean, I guess we are around like the 2-hour mark, so I could end the stream off soon. I do want to comment on this though. Obviously, you don't have to stay here, Living Dog. You can always watch the vid afterwards. If you don't want to add anything more to the conversation, I can just close it off here. But I mean, I think Mr. Light has a good point there. It's why democracy and rule of law should act as brakes, and also when it doesn't. So I've been on for 20 minutes, so I'll stay until the stream ends. Okay, Living Dog, cool. We'll probably wrap it up in like the next 10 minutes or so. But like, yes, on one hand, yeah, I agree with Living Dog. Democracy and the rule of law should act as brakes for like a government that tries to overreach. And I think my defense of that point and excuse me, my defense of that point and also my counter to that point are both one and the same. That would be the current government of the US, right? Like, there is a lot of governmental overreach, like an absurd, almost comical amount of governmental overreach going on right now. And you could argue, yes, it's currently breaking down, democracy's breaking down. You could also argue that it is democracy itself that is keeping things from breaking down as quickly as they would. So I think the present situation the government is in both supports Mr. Light's point and also Living Dog's point. Because, like, yeah, the second we get a bad leader, things get really bad, right? And admittedly, we kind of do it to ourselves. We kind of summon this bad leader in on we vote him in, right? And if we have this unified like world global government, it would be like representative, right? A representative republic. We'd vote them into power. So we would have to hope there are enough reasonable people to keep making reasonable decisions and vote reasonable people in, which is not something I think, at least I'm speaking for myself, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in. What I do have more confidence in is the ability of people to recognize that if there is a bad leader and if things are going very badly, they're not just fucked. I don't think that it's a game over screen if a bad leader gets elected. And I think historically we've seen that. I think pretty much every, if not every nation that currently exists has had a bad leader get elected, right? So, like, historically, like, that is not necessarily the end. So I don't think that necessarily is a point against having a global government. Not that I would advocate for such a thing, but I think if we had to do one extreme or the other, that's the one I would be leaning towards for those reasons. The UN could do so much more if not for the goddamn Security Council. That's fair. That's fair. Let me change over here, just get some music difference. I have some issues with democracy in general. More so, I believe meritocracy is better than it. Not that it's bad, but just that I'd prefer other form of governments. Not even other form, one form. So when you're saying meritocracy as opposed to democracy, I assume, Living Dog, you're referring to, like, we're talking about elections, right? We're talking about voting. So rather than democracy giving everyone the right to vote, it would be like giving a right to vote of people who like rate it, like people who like through merit have earned the right to vote through some means or another. I assume that's what you're referring to here as a meritocracy, not the more general use of the term, as in like just a world where those who like a merit-based system or a merit-based society, right, where people with merit succeed. I assume you're referring to the voting power. And assuming you are, until you clarify in the chat, I really don't like the idea of a meritocracy. I really don't like the idea of like merit-based voting or of any sort of prescriptive voting at all. And the main reason for that is just historically what has been the case. And one of my most recent like hottest takes that like I have about how the current world, how the current like voting works, at least in America, the idea that people under the age of 18 shouldn't be allowed to vote, I think that is ridiculous, and I think people under the age of 18 should absolutely be allowed to vote. Because if you look at all the reasons why we don't allow children to vote, it's something really funny happens when you apply a historical lens to it. Literally every single leader, I just read your chat and kind of copied it. Every single reason we have for not allowing minors to vote are reasons that were previously applied to why women shouldn't be able to vote. So if it were up to me, then we would basically just abolish the voting limit itself, for all intents and purposes. So I am basically the furthest person from being like we should add stipulations to voting. Though it does sound like you're not actually talking about that. You're talking about individuals being granted power off their merit, like leader would be the most competent leader, not exactly feasible. Yeah. I mean, again, they're just like general ideas with not really any practical application, right? Because there's no way to grant power to people off of merit, right? There's not really a feasible way we can do that. Right? There's not really a way we can give people power based on merit, because there's several different problems with that. For one, what if the person who is most qualified simply does not want it, right? And like you can say we can go to the next person, or we can like find a bunch of people. Maybe we can find a bunch of people, and then whoever is the most qualified will rule. That's just elections, right? That's just what we have. So I'm not entirely sure like what a meritocracy that you're talking about would actually look like in the present world that isn't basically just a representative democracy or republic like what we have in the US. We can all agree total democracy is bad. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't like giving people who are not educated the ability to make such large decisions on the nation, even though they have every right to. I don't like that idea. And yes, I realize I'm saying that in the same sentence that I said that we shouldn't restrict who is able to vote. But like, again, it's kind of the best thing we've got, right? I mean, I don't think what we have in America is the best thing we've got. I think we see a lot of cases in Europe of a better situation. I think total democracy, where like, in the sense where everybody votes directly for like their leader, I think that is better than like the Electoral College, than the republic that we have, the democratic republic that America has. Because I think that's ridiculous. I think we've proven how ridiculous it is through things like gerrymandering, right? And through things like districting. I think we've proven that electing people to represent us in like elections is a horrible idea and has not worked out for us. So when comparing total democracy to a democratic republic like the US has, I would choose a total democracy. Because that allows more of the like actual vote to come through, and it isn't as dependent on where you live, right? And what district you're a part of, or how your leaders are trying to slice up the cake. I think total democracy is better than what we have right now. However, I think even better than that, even more important than that, would be taking a lesson from the Europeans and actually having like preferential votes, right? Like how things often work in a lot of parliaments, and I believe Germany still works like this, where, and yeah, I believe the UK works like this as well, perhaps even France, where you basically say like, I don't want to say this, like, it's not just black and white, right? It's not just I'm voting for this, I'm not voting for this. There are a bunch of candidates, and you actually have a larger spectrum of which you can vote with. So it's not just like it discourages the two-party system that we've fallen into. If you have multiple parties and it's not just winner takes all, then smaller parties can be allowed to exist and allowed to start populating the government and do things like that. So if there's one thing the Europeans have done much better than Americans, it's figure out how to democracy, I would say. The idea that it ought not to happen, but it should, is basically my entire view of law when it's nothing's that violate the NAP. I think drunks are bad, but they should be totally legalized. I phrased that wrong. Not that it should happen, but it should be able to happen. Yep, I think to a large degree I can agree with that. I do think that we've historically seen over and over again that the more illegal you make something, the more and more it sinks into the black market and the more powerful it becomes. I think we've seen that historically. So yeah, rather than just trying to stop drugs by making them illegal, I think most of us, if not all of us, would agree that it'd be a lot better to actually address why people are taking drugs, right? Like mental health and stuff like that, rather than just trying to say, you can't do that anymore, you're punished if you do it. Yeah, congratulations, you just made drugs far more profitable, right? Also, what's y'all's views on taxes? I could have sworn you wanted to watch the NBA or something, living dog. I mean, taxes is its own can of worms, right? Taxes is its own can of worms. Like, no man, I gotta stick through the stream. You say you gotta stick through the stream, but here you are actively trying to drag on the stream by bringing out these things that are you're just opening up you're just zipping open your backpack and just pulling out cans of worms to open up. Not that I'm complaining, I mean, I think the last like half hour, if not more, has just been us talking about politics while I run around and giving Mr. Light a bunch of friendship points, so he'll evolve into a Crowbat level like freaking 21. You can end it whenever you want, man. No, I'm down to be here, spending conversation. Yeah, no, I'm not complaining at all. I would just figure that you had places to be. Like, I don't mind this at all. Heck, this is just gonna be great for my VOD, you know? I can turn this into its own video where I'm just randomly spouting about politics. I'm not complaining one bit. But like, I mean, if you want to get into taxes, we can get into taxes. Like, I'm glad I'm becoming your little bat friend. Yeah, Mr. Light. Golbat evolves by friendship. With all this running around, he's gonna evolve as soon as he becomes a Golbat, basically. But like, when you've got taxes, right? I'm split. This bot is just gonna be anarchism and economics. It had to happen at some point, right? So, I'm torn in between two different ways. On one hand, I think people would be a lot more okay with taxes if the governments were transparent about where that money was going, right? Like, I think most of the money from taxes is going towards things that are beneficial. We just don't see it because there's not enough transparency about where our money is actually going, and there's not a good breakdown of where taxes are going. And Alex is just sneaking in here. I think they're not so bad as long as they're well balanced to use, which they're not. Yeah, we'll get into that, Alex. I would say you just came in right at the end, but given that Living Dog just brought up taxes, who knows when the stream will end. Feel free to input as you desire. But like, initially on the surface level, it shouldn't be bad. It shouldn't be an issue. As long as you are transparent with your citizens and say where your money is going, and you say, like, you have a clear website, a government website, it's like, this is your money, this is how much of your money goes into this is where this money is going. I think the vast majority of people who are against taxes right now would not be as against taxes anymore. Because the biggest issue is that we just don't know where our taxes are going, right? We don't know where our money's going. And like, if you really dig around, you can find it, but it's not an easy thing to find. On the other hand, if our government was transparent about our taxes and where our tax money was going, it would become immediately clear to anyone it's not immediately clear to that a lot of our money is not going into where it should. Right? I don't think it even counts as a conspiracy theory anymore that the amount of money that we pay into the government that is like disappearing like a magic trick is staggering, right? I mean, just the fact that the DoD, I believe, has never once passed an audit, a financial audit, is terrifying. So I guess in that regard, that's again another point for I think the best thing we can do with taxes, at least right now, is just full transparency. The government shows us exactly what's happening with our money. Because I think that would expose the fact that a lot of our money is just randomly disappearing and there's no accountability for it. And once that's in the public space, I think that will become apparent and things will start to change. So I guess that's my short answer, Living Dog. I think the tax situation would improve significantly just from the simple change of full transparency. Now, the longer conversation is whether we should be putting our money into the government at all, or we should just funnel that money into what needs it, i.e. hospitals, schools, daycares, charities, things like that. Whether we should trust the government to better those things, infrastructure, or whether we should just do it ourselves as communities. And I've got a sneaking suspicion, Living Dog, I know your stance on this, whether you'd rather have the money go into government to fix communities or whether you'd have the communities do it themselves. I've got a sneaking suspicion I know your stance on this. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to leave it in the hands of communities. At the same time, I think we overestimate the ability and willingness of communities to take that money and do good with it. I think if we were to give all the money that we're giving to the government and just give it to local communities, I think we would see the same thing that's happening in the federal governments, because it is, right? Money that is going into cities are also disappearing. So I don't think the corruption and the disappearance, quote unquote, of money would stop. We just left it in the hands of communities. And if nothing else, we would actually give more opportunity for people in charge, like mayors, to embezzle and disappear, do their Houdini tricks on our money. I'd rather taxes be voluntary, actually. I'm a massive libertarian, bro. I mean, yeah, I kind of figured as much, Living Dog. Though I'm surprised you said I'd rather taxes be voluntary, rather than just stop taxes altogether. I am curious why you would rather have taxes be voluntary. Because I think, unlike legalizing drugs, I don't think making taxes no longer obligatory would make people more willing to engage with them. I think the second you say you no longer have to put all this money into helping other people, I think people would stop giving their money to other people. Oh, Sumknown's heading out? Alright, thanks for hanging out here. Appreciate you, all your input, and I appreciate your help in the first gym as well. You provide quite a bit of help and got the first evolution, so have a good night, Sumknown, or have a good morning, I guess, at this point. Stopping taxes altogether would be a restriction on the government. I mean, yeah, obviously it would be, right? It would be a massive restriction. That's where they get most of their money from. But I figured that's what you were looking for. You were trying to restrict the government. Given all your, talks about anarchy and things like that. But at the same time, I'm curious why you think you could make taxes voluntary and not effectively stop funding the government, because I think practically that's what would be the outcome of that. If I get a clip in Discord where Sumknown dies, Sweden will break its streak of neutrality and peace. Sweden will just start going crazy and taking over the world. Oh god, Sumknown. And Sumknown's gonna be at the charge of it, you know it. He's already training to swim over to our meetup in California. I am terrified of what could happen there. Have a good night, Sumknown. Oh yeah, Alex, you were joining late, so you probably didn't see it all. You'll see it in the VOD when we get to there, but There was a whole bit about, first of all, Sumknown just being a Primplups, being a water type, but we were talking about having a meetup in California because some of us are based around here, and Sumknown being in Sweden would have to swim all the way from Sweden to California, and he would just become an absolute monster doing so. Gotta wait a long time before walking up to Mr. G. I think most public services should be private, really, though, so taxes would be less needed. Okay, so rather than give money to, like, smaller governments, like cities, you'd rather give that money to corporations. Is that what I'm hearing, Living Dog? You think corporations will... Okay, not corporations, so, like... What private do you mean? Do you mean just, like, people donating, like, to charities? Like, individually? I mean, I guess perhaps I'm just confused by your wording itself. I think most public services should be private. I guess you mean I think most public services should be private services. But, like... So, like, are you talking about things like daycares, like education? You think those should be private? Because I'm not sure how I feel about... Yeah, Mr. Light. I don't think privatization is necessarily a good idea, because I think... I mean, turning things private is effectively the same thing as changing things into being profit-centered, right? Like, the vast majority of private services would be for profit, because most people can't afford to make a non-profit. And I don't think changing, like, a lot of public services, like public parks, like infrastructure, like education curriculum, education, a lot of hospitals, we see it already with privatization. I don't think that's a good idea, because I don't think people do much better with this responsibility than governments. The best way to make profit in a culture where workers strike and where there's healthy competition would be good services. If people demand more and boycott corporations as well, if there's not good enough service, they will be forced to change. Spoken like a libertarian. But those are pretty strong ifs, aren't they, Living Dog? Like, they shouldn't be, but they are. I mean, just look at Amazon, right? Look at Amazon. Obviously, there's a lot we could do better about Amazon. There's a lot of complaints people have and gripes people have about things like Amazon. But, like, what are you going to do about that? Like, are you going to boycott Amazon? Sure, you can try. I've seen, like, over just this past year alone, a lot of people have tried, like, boycotting Amazon, stopping using it. But, like, it is such a powerful service, and, like, take, like, Google, take Tesla you can boycott, but, like, Google, Amazon, these, like, foundational, functional monopolies, like, you can't really boycott them without taking massive, like, personal sacrifice. And frankly, even if you could convince that many people to go through such a big sacrifice to try to put the corporation in check, put the private company in check, they are so successful that they can just wait it out. They can just wait it out and let the let the consumers choke themselves out and not really change anything. Amazon is such a good example of why libertarian free market economics are just not possible, because we let these corporations get so big by not forcing better wages and treatment of workers. Yeah, because, and like the same thing applies to governments, right? Not possible is not achievable, yeah, because foundationally, like, everything you're saying about private companies, like we should be able to we should boycott them, right, and demand better wages and things like that. Like, we have the power over private companies, right? We should. We're the consumers. We give them money. But all of those arguments also apply to the government, right? Government workers and government offices, government officials work for the public. All of those arguments should work for governments just as much as private companies. And I think it's very interesting and telling of our modern day that we say customers have a lot more say over private companies than citizens do over their government, even though the role of both are functionally the same, right? The feeling of disconnect with people and their governments is so strong that it doesn't feel like the same anymore. And the problem is who manages the money, whether it's private or public. Always people with their own interests, and that unfortunately is the human error. Personally, I don't care who has the money as long as they are competent in what they do based on past actions, even if they mismanage a portion of the money. I mean, I agree and disagree, Alex. The first statement I agree with fully. I think 100%, like you said, and like I've been saying, it doesn't matter if it's private or public, it's always going to be, at the end of the day, people in power managing money, right? And if you trust private people to manage money better than public, I think that just speaks to how little we trust public power. But I don't think that delineation is as strong as we like to think it is. However, I disagree that as long as they're competent in what they do, I don't care if they have the money, even if they mismanage a portion of it, because I don't think we should meet halfway there, right? I don't think we should say, as long as they're doing a good job, I don't care if they mismanage part of the money. That shouldn't be a compromise, right, Alex? That shouldn't be a compromise we need or even care to reach. If you're competent but you're mismanaging my money, then I'm sorry, you're not really competent. I'm not happy with that. Mismanagement of money, I think, is one of the biggest things. That is a deal breaker of competence. I think state has an edge compared to companies in the sense that because there's a guaranteed turnover, the system is designed well. Yeah, Mr. Light, I agree with that. I think that is one big distinction between private and public, in the sense that private can kind of do whatever it wants. Public power is bound by the rules that formed it, right? The Constitution in the US. It's bound by term limits, right? It's bound by elections. Private companies are not. Private power is not. Like you said, there is a guaranteed turnover, presuming it works well. Also, one big flaw of capitalism is it assumes absolute freedom and coverage of information. Yeah, definitely, which there very much isn't, right? And the more power someone has, the more ability they have to limit the passage of information and knowledge with the public. Living dog, I miss most of these things being said, so my bad. Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to repeat everything I just said for you. So I can't really recap all of that, but TLDR, I think my personal hot take, advertising should be illegal. That's a whole other can of worms, Mr. Light. I'm sorry, I'm not going to open that one. TLDR, Living Dog, I think your disillusionment with public power and your preference of private power that should have the money and that should have the influence, I think is more than anything a sign of the times and a sign of our larger disillusionment with public power. Whereas in truth, a private company is no more beholden to its customers than a public government, a public body, is to its citizens. Right? Because a government is made up of the citizens. They work for the citizens. in some way the company can't really exist without its customers. So all the arguments you make about private companies and like how people should be able to like boycott and demand better wages are arguments you should be able to use for public power as well. I think the fact you don't is very indicative of the present day we exist in, where people feel very separated from their governments. And that's my TLDR of what I assume you missed. Shouldn't be this way, but unfortunately will happen. But Centerman says 7.3 is still something good. If we want to avoid problems, we'll have to use AI in the end. Even that is not 100% safe. I concur with that, Alex. I think at the end of the day, most of these problems we're going to have to leave to AI, whether we like it or not. And whether it'll end well or not, I think if there's any solution to the problems that we currently have, it'll be in the AI's hands. Because I think as humans, we've thought about it pretty much as we can think about on our own. I think we've really got to leave it to bigger minds at this point. Even if that ends up us becoming the pets of AI. That's just how it is, and that's just... it is what it is, right? And we're just gonna have to be okay with whatever happens if we decide to do something like that. Alright, so I think I'm gonna end the stream off right around here. It's obviously gone on for quite a bit longer than I expected it to. Almost an hour longer. But we beat the first gym, we had some discussions I can turn into a video. I think we're gonna leave it off here. I don't know when the next one will be. Obviously, these aren't like scheduled at all, so they'll just kind of happen as they happen, as I feel like it. I'm just not really up for doing an episode, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll do the next one when I do it. So if you want to be here for some random freaking conversations and eventually talk about politics or maybe talk about moms or whatever the next one will be about, then yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Before that though, real quick, let's see. Some last thoughts. For associating with concrete political projects I can actually vote for. I'm telling a leftist which is very attached to science. Fair enough, Mr. Light. Alex bring up, yeah, I haven't marked comments from the most paragraphers yet. Assuming you haven't read them. Want to do a live read and a quick spoken response, saving the best for the pre-episode. Interesting. Only if you haven't seen them yet. I assume, Alex, you're referring to my latest video with the JJK 311 and the comments here. Yeah, I haven't gotten to like most of the comments yet in 311, honestly. I have not been very good with that, so I do need to do that. Are you suggesting that I do it live right now and I just read through the comments and do a quick response to them? Have you watched the movie Extra Content I posted, Mr. G? Mr. Light? No, I have not. I have not done very much since the stream that I guess was yesterday, huh? It doesn't feel like it's been just a day, but it has just been a day since the last one. So no, I haven't really done much since then. Living Dog's setting out. I'm gonna go now then. Okay, yeah, have a good one, Living Dog. So yeah, I'm gonna end things off. I'll get to those comments, Alex. Don't worry, I'll get to them probably today, if not tomorrow. But regardless, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you all hanging out here. And forever, however long we were able to make it. It is a lot of fun. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to Twitch or not, but it does seem like most of the people who were showing up to the YouTube one are going to show up here, so it's not really much of a difference. So yeah, we'll just see how things go from here. But thank you all for watching. Have a great night. Have a great morning, day, night, Living Dog. And until the next one, have a lovely rest of your day.